get away from the idea of a stolen election, because of course you can't discuss that. Of course you can't say that intelligence agencies, mainstream media, and those at big tech colluded to try and alter the election. You can't say that. You can't say that the Hunter Biden story would have actually altered the outcome of the election, except for the fact that Biden voters themselves said that it absolutely would. You can't argue, right? We can't argue that for some reason out there there are groomers. You're not allowed to talk about that because it's a term that's no longer allowed. Also, the term woman is no longer allowed. The term patriot is no longer allowed. But Donald Trump was removed. The Hunter Biden laptop story was removed. People who criticized Twitter's policy regarding child pornography were removed. People who were conservative were removed. I'm not talking about a stolen election, because I would never say that. Look, hey, you're now experiencing a stealing of your country. Let me put a fine point on it. Do you believe the United States is a country where those in power support sex with children? If not, there are enough, not all of them, of course not, but there are enough people in positions of authority who think that that should be a part of the fabric of our country. Let's not talk about an election. You are having your country stolen from you. And to be clear, not talking about open borders, though I have a problem with that. I'm not talking about people coming on work visas. I am talking about people in positions of power who have decided that values that we have held since the beginning of the founding of this country, and by the way, all of Western civilization, that not only should they no longer be a part of our values, not only should they be a voice at the table, but that they shouldn't be uttered at all. Because they're so offensive, you actually have to be banned. One side is arguing for free speech absolutism, and I get it. Comes with like those black Hebrew Israelites we just discussed, right? Who said that they like Hitler. I get it. There's bad that comes with free speech absolutism. The other side is advocating for silencing of people who are out there advocating for traditional heteronormative marriages, the nuclear family, voter ID, and believe in harsh punishments for pedophiles. They want those people removed. How do I know? Check all the references. They removed them. It's not about a stolen election. It's about a stolen country. And you know what? I'm not mad at people like this. You can't be mad at someone, a snake, for being a snake. Aren't there people in positions of power who share our values who can fight back? Why are we the ones doing it? Don't we need more effective fighters on our side? And I don't mean people just going out being bombastic. I don't mean being an asshole, though. You know what? Most of us here are. I'm okay with it. Where's our people? Why did it take Elon Musk, a lifelong Democrat billionaire? Hey, where are all the billionaires who we know on the right? Where are they? Why didn't you do what Elon Musk did? It's no longer about a stolen election. It's about a stolen country.
I was on my locals account, and I saw this little exclamation point. I click it, and then I go here, corporate rumble. I see this, and I click Truth Social. And what comes up? Access denied. To prevent you from accessing the site. Imagine that. Just imagine that. Now, let me turn off my VPN. Oh, you see that? So when you have a VPN on, it blocks you. But if you have it off, it doesn't. Now, how could that work like that, people? Why would that be? I thought it's supposed to protect you. But what you don't seem to understand, and you really don't want to listen to the people who have taken the time out of their lives to show you these things, and you still don't get it. Would you like to know the VPN I'm using? There she is. Proton VPN.
Hedera.com/council. Let me slide down here and see. Hedera is owned and governed by the world's leading organizations. Calvin, can you please tell me who's on that list? Sure, no problem. Avery Dennison, Boeing, Chainlink Labs, which runs Chainlink and all of its oracles, okay? Denton, IBM, Google. Look at this, LG, Ubisoft, Swirl, Standard Bank. This crypto right here is owned and governed by the world's leading organizations. And it is ISO 20022 compliant. Who's paying attention? You might want to screenshot this. Right. Now, how do all of these things work? They all work through Quant. Quant is the boss. It has an overledger system which operates like Apple's iOS. But this is iOS for the blockchain. I'm going to say that again. This is like Apple's iOS system for the blockchain. Can you break it down for me a little bit more? Sure, I can. Here is Quant. Quant is a software, and their overledger operating system talks to all of these things. You cannot run your life today or your business without one of these being a part of it. That is 100% fact. You cannot run your life today or your business without running into one of these payment APIs. Google Pay, Apple Pay, Amazon Pay, PayPal, Stripe, Samsung, Walmart, Venmo, Swift. I'm gonna double tap that one again. Swift. This runs that. Blockchains. That means layer ones, layer twos, and even layer zeros like Polkadot. Who's paying attention? Constellation DAG is right here. Y'all don't even know what Constellation DAG is. Let me remind you. Look what it is right here. Look. Constellation DAG, proof of reputable observation. Y'all don't know what that means. I'm going to break it down for you in layman's terms. Watch this. Pay attention. This one, by the way, because y'all like to read, like stuff like Perez, Hilton, and Bossip and Shade Room. I read stuff on NASDAQ, Fortune, and Forbes. Constellation Network to provide U.S. Air Force with blockchain security for data sharing. Oh my God. Anybody ever heard of the U.S. Air Force? They're using the Constellation DAG network to provide security for their data sharing, man. Who's paying attention? Who's paying attention?
And then what did I say last year about the settings, developer settings, that I noticed changed? What was it? What did it say? Force full GNSS measurements. Track all GNSS constellations and frequencies with no duty cycling. When I noticed that, I made a video. It got censored.
This software right here talks to all of that stuff. It is the only, this right here, this is the only blockchain that has a relationship and a freaking contract with the U.S. government. Constellation DAG, which is right here. Enterprise blockchain. Banking APIs. I just explained to you how JP Morgan is moving into the metaverse. They already have a virtual bank in the metaverse. They're now filing a trademark patent for crypto wallets. This banking API and all of these talk to Quant. Quant talks to all of Internet of Things. That means the APIs for those of you trying to create new technology. Hey Siri, okay, all of that. Okay Siri, and Alexis, do this and that. Those are all Internet of Things APIs. This controls and runs all of them. Who's paying attention? So everything is attached to Quant. Quant goes out here and talks to XDC. That means it talks to JP Morgan and Chase, TriFi. It talks to Algorand. It talks over here to Internet of Things. That means CBDs, C's. That means central bank digital currencies are coming, and this is...
Nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Oh, site's down again, huh?
Has been publicly attacking previous heads of councils at Twitter for abetting child pornography. And he's putting his money where his mouth is. This is really important. Don't let people fool you into believing that Elon shut down that department. Now, here's what happens, right? That being number one, and that's what he made it. It should have been number one before, and that's why he made it number one now. Yes. That should be the top priority of any security for an internet site, I would assume, for a social media site. Yes, absolutely. You deserve the full run of the law if you do not get rid of child pornography on social media. I would think, hey, this is the whole myth of common ground. There's no common ground. We talk about dreamers. We talk about kids who come here and there's no fault of their own. What about dreamers? And they should, okay, we get a system. Hold on a second, before we get to common ground. Hey, what about saying child porn is bad? Well, I would say it in my college thesis that, no common ground. I have plenty of friends. I could use a few enemies. Screw you. Now, here's the thing. Elon Musk went after Twitter for this. He was very public about it. I just read you the tweets, right? Now, let me ask you this. This is a tweet. It is a crime that they refuse to take action on child exploitation for years. Okay. Does that sound like a threat? Does that sound like a call to violence? No, because guess who gets to play the victim? Ross. Because even though he's a white cis male, Elon Musk is a white heterosexual cis male, so here we go back to that. And so he...
Numbers of people around the world have suffered severe side effects, and some, including former BBC presenter Lisa Shaw, have died.
Found inside the lipid nanoparticles.
And what that means for us.
It is not. It's true. You're gonna learn today. They want you to stay poor.
Ati is the crux of the doctrine of Lucifer.
There's no details of this.
If you go back to Germany, you have to declare war.
There's been 120-year-old people, but...
For me, while we were there looking...
Back in 1910, there was a Flexner report done. It...
9. Anthony Fauci.
Did the Holocaust happen?
It did happen, and we're glad that it happened.
Sheesh. Whoa. Okay.
Extermination services. Now what's for lunch? Henry Kissinger in the speech to the World Health Organization Council on Eugenics, February 20.
If you just look at Stefan's experiment and the conclusion...
From 4 degrees.
Biometric entry exit visa. We will finally complete the biometric entry exit visa tracking system, which we need desperately. For years, Congress has required biometric.
So what do you need to be able to complete that? Well, you need email, right? Why do you need email? Well, because that's how everything's linked in.
America needs a superhero. Hello, everyone. This is Donald Trump, hopefully your favorite president of all time, better than Lincoln, better than Washington, with an important announcement to make. I'm doing my first official Donald J. Trump NFT collection right here and right now.
Hey, what's up, folks? So Trump teased a major trailer and people were pumped, thinking it was going to be something huge and important. And then he ended up dropping his digital NFT collection, which stars him as a digital superhero. But also on the same day, Trump rolled out his idea for a digital Bill of Rights.
If we don't have free speech, then we just don't have a free country. It's as simple as that. If this most fundamental right is allowed to perish, then the rest of our rights and liberties will topple, just like dominoes, one by one. They'll go down. That's why today I'm announcing my plan to shatter the left-wing censorship regime and to reclaim the right to free speech for all Americans. And reclaim is a very important word in this case because they've taken it away.
And other interesting conversations around stopping tech censorship. We're going to react to both videos and ask the
Like I said, you'd have to be a fucking moron to not realize what's happening right in front of you.
Regardless, right? Yeah. So you're part of the problem, man. I want you to know that. You're part of the problem. 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 Everybody in here, every one of you, man. What's going on in this country?
That is completely aware of this, right? But forfeiting your First Amendment right, your God-given right to freedom of speech, forfeiting that is an act of cowardice. And there are people like me, like Ian Smith, and tens of thousands of other people, like police officers who walked off the job, doctors.
Go to mugclubforever.com, enter in your email. You can bring that up on full screen, Toolman. Just so you know, this is a horrible start. Mugclubforever.com. Look, yesterday and the day before when we put this up, the servers crashed. We had DDoS attacks. I want to make sure that you know it now 100% works. If you signed up before you are hearing this right now, I ask that you sign up again. The email list may not actually work because of what happened with the servers. So some announcements that we have to make. I, Mug Club, am leaving the Blaze. This is a long time coming, obviously, and I had been hoping that this would be, of course, a joint statement. I've lost sleep over this for months because I knew that I wouldn't be renewing, and of course the Blaze knew that I wouldn't be renewing, but I have no way of reaching you. I'm precluded from being able to reach you, and that's why if you go in and enter your email so we don't lose touch with you at mugclubforever.com, we can enter that in there, and every time I mention it to a man, just bring it up. Every time you got good. That's why I'll be mentioning it ad nauseum here because it's the only way that I can get in touch with you. I don't know how many of you there. I only know that there are well over 300,000 of you who have paid to sign up and watch. That hundreds of thousands of you watch on Mug Club every day, in addition to the 2 million or so plays and downloads individual screens for each individual show. And I haven't talked about that in the past. That's not including clips. 2 million of your screens, your phones, your devices, every single show. And I only know there's over 300,000 of you out there. So please, here's what I ask you. As Mug Club finds a new home, don't lose touch with us. Sign up. Just enter in your email there at mugclubforever.com. I'm promising you, you will never receive an email from me, aside from if, when, and where Mug Club's new home is going to exist, with the exception that some of you may receive an immediate email just to confirm that you signed up so that it doesn't go to spam. And I ask that you check your spam because due to issues outside of my control, it's going to take some time before I figure out exactly where Mug Club lands. So all I ask really right now is that if you want Mug Club to continue, enter in your email so we can make that happen. I knew that, my partnership, which for a long time was obviously very happy with, lots of great people there. My partnership with the Blaze would be ending for a long time. They know that, they've known that. And it's always weighed really heavy on my heart for the people who sign up and don't get your full year's worth of content. It shows, chats, fun, and I've been really trying, really hoping for a simple resolution. Look, this should be really easy. You signed up to support and watch this show. I obviously believe the right thing to do would be to make it easy for you to follow the show you signed up for and to continue watching it. I really hope that that's exactly what transpires with the Blaze. This, again, was supposed to be a joint statement. Considering that you well know, comment below if you remember that this was always promoted as being my last show of the year. So that was kind of a deadline, right? And now actually we will be broadcasting next week, Monday, Tuesday, largely on Mug Club. We have a Christmas special on Wednesday where we give back and donate to families in need. So I don't have your emails. I don't have your signups. So as of this moment, the only thing that I can do is tell you to enter in your email at mugclubforever.com so that I don't lose touch with you. And of course, follow me on social media. Rumble's probably the best place to subscribe right now because YouTube notifications don't necessarily work. But this does bring me to something important, which is not lost on me, and frankly has really made me so nervous, almost to the point of being sick to my stomach. Token, if you can bring up that chat. One of you asked yesterday, I literally just subbed to the Blaze last week for Mug Club. Well, are they canning you? No. Should I ask for a refund? No, I'm not saying that you should ask for a refund. Some people have asked if there will be some kind of a partial reimbursement or some kind of a bridging. I would hope that the answer there would be yes. I can't speak for all partners involved. All I can say is that since it is somewhat outside of my control, whatever decision is made, I will make it right. If that means honoring your time left on your membership, wherever Mug Club may be, if it means I have to take out a business loan, if it means I have to show up at your house as a telegram in a stupid outfit, which you know I'll do, I will make it right. Now, I know that if that's what's required of me, it's going to be very expensive. And of course, that would never make sense as it relates to good business. I'm sure everyone understands this. I've never been very good at good business. You've seen the things I've said. And sure, look, everyone needs to make a living. Business is important, but Mug Club has never been about the altar of good business. It's about you. It's about the viewer. It's about the listener. It's about the member. And I understand that you are not a rich Republican donor. I understand that it means a lot to you to part with your hard-earned dollars, and that is not a responsibility and a vote of trust that I take lightly. But I can't honor it if you don't ensure that we don't lose touch. In order to serve you, I need you to just enter your email at mugclubforever.com. Follow the rest of my social media for updates. And again, because of issues outside of my control, the logistical aspect, financial aspect of doing right by you is going to take some time. Now, yeah, of course, look, there's been speculation. There have been plenty of tire kickers. There have been offers, opportunities. Whatever and wherever we build next, one thing is for sure, I know that I need to build it correctly. That's going to take some time. This show is genuinely funded by viewers like you, Mug Club, not a foreign caliphate. And that's a real thing, some of these networks out there. It is actually funded, not by federal tax dollars like PBS. It's actually entirely funded by viewers like you. And it's why I have promised you, and trying to be right by you with this show, that I would only ever do at most one sponsorship spot per show. And I will always keep it. And if it gets to the point, by the way, where there are not enough of you out there who want this show, who want Mug Club, who want us to even produce and create more content, water's warm, folks. We're becoming a production house. Love to hear from you. If we get to the point where there's not enough of you out there, look, I will leave and I will pass that torch. There is nothing worse than seeing someone whose race is run, refusing to pass the mantle. That's not what I want to do. But that's not our problem right now. The truth is there are too many of you. That's our problem. To the point that people in this industry, as conservative, in many cases across, don't believe it. And to the point that I need to build something or partner with someone who can build the house on a foundation that can handle it. Again, to be clear, there are many great people, of course, at the Blaze. Many of them have been on this show. And I've always aimed for the transition to be as seamless for you as possible, to be as private as possible. I've exhausted all options, avoided any kind of public discussion at all costs for as long as I could. And I was hoping for a jointly released statement before my final broadcast, which, comment below, everyone well knew was today. Because of the crash of the servers, we'll be broadcasting next week, doing episodes of You Can't Say That on YouTube, which should be a lot of fun to end out the year. And we'll be doing the Crowder Gives Back. I get to dress up as Santa Claus and give to families in need and charities. But today was supposed to be the last show. Now, at this point, I'm still hoping for a transition of all of you Mug Club subscribers seamlessly, and that everyone involved in this partnership places the trust into the viewers, you paying with your hard-earned dollars, with the same trust you've placed in me. You've placed in us to fight big tech and genuinely to try and win back the soul of our country, despite the wiener jokes. So I do hope for your support. I hope for support across the board with all this undertaking, but if required, I will undertake the burden for all of it and doing right by you and making sure that none of you feel as though you haven't gotten what you've paid for. What you have built is too important to everyone right now watching, listening, downloading, to the point that this industry doesn't believe you exist, to the point that the venues don't believe that you will fill them. It's one of those things. It honestly has been an incredible ride, and really, gosh, the best is yet to come. We just have to be ready to handle it. You have my word that I want to place the trust in you that you have placed in us, that you understand. It's a Mick doubly bad.
It's a double Mac band.
No, it's not a double Mac band.
It's a quarter pound.
Joke.
Yes.
Yeah, it was I'm gay.
A little bit stressed.
No, it's fine.
I think it's the cortisol effect.
It was just a knock.
Oh, that why his stocking.
Thank you guys.
What I'm showing here is when I type in Mug Club in Brave, it doesn't show up. Site can't be reached.
Comment about he started all this. This is what brings us during Ross time at Twitter. This is, and Elon talked about this. Child porn was a huge problem. I think we just had this last week, and this ties right back into the security was running it. Yeah, Elon Musk said to a tweet about child porn on Twitter. It is a crime that they refused to take action. action on child exploitation for years. And then Jack Dorsey claimed that the story was false. Elon replied, when Ella Irwin, who now runs Trust and Safety, joined Twitter earlier this year, almost no one was working on child safety. I made it top priority immediately. Now, I know what people are going to say on the left because obviously he got rid of the department that had Trust and Safety. No, he got rid of the Trust and Safety department so he could actually enforce the laws regarding child pornography. Because the Trust and Safety department allows child pornography while throttling the Hunter Biden laptop story, it ceases to serve any relevance. So that's the switch they're trying to tell you. Elon Musk got rid of the child Trust and Safety. He's allowing child. No. He is going after and has been publicly attacking previous heads of councils at Twitter for abetting child pornography. And he's putting his money where his mouth is. This is really important. Don't let people fool you into believing that Elon shut down the department. Now, here's what happens, right?
That'd be number one, and that's what he made it. It should have been number one before, and that's why he made it number one now.
Yes.
That should be the top priority of any security for an internet site, I would assume, for a social media site.
Yes, absolutely. You deserve the full run of law if you not get rid of child pornography on social media. Okay, if this is the whole myth of common ground. There's no common ground. We talk about kids who come here. There's no fault of their own. We're not dreamers. Hold on a second. Before we get to the common ground. Hey, what about saying child porn is bad? Well, I would say to my college thesis that, no common ground. I have plenty of friends that can disagree on these. Screw you. Now, here's the thing. Elon Musk went after Twitter for this. He's very public about it. I just read you the tweets, right? Now, let me ask you this. This is a tweet. It is a crime that they refuse to take action on child exploitation for years. Okay. Does that sound like a threat? Does that sound like a call to violence? No, because he gets to play the victim. Ross, because he's a white cis male. Elon Musk is a white heterosexual cis male, so we go back to that. And so he said he had to flee his home due to what CNN described, again, CNN is in this incestuous relationship, as, quote, an escalation in threats resulting, not Elon Musk, resulting from Musk's campaign of criticism against him. You mean there's been an escalation of threats resulting from Elon Musk's campaign of criticizing someone who actively promoted and wrote a thesis on supporting child pornography? We feel bad for the child porn guy? You wanted to oust Clarence Thomas because he made a joke about a pube on his can of Coke, and it was a very funny joke. All of America wrote down in their journal. He told a funny joke today. This guy's telling people that child porn should be acceptable, and we're supposed to feel bad for him? Well, come on, guys. There's not going to be a civilization left to protect unless you put your foot down. Look behind you. That's where you're supposed to hold the line. We're not looking to get removed from YouTube. We're not looking to get removed from Big Tech. But if it means speaking out against child porn peddlers, all references available at our.com, I am willing to accept the results. Please go to mudclubforever.com. Mudclubforever.com. Bring it up full screen there, gentlemen. Mudclubforever.com. We don't want to lose touch with you. Have some major announcements coming forward. The leash is off completely. I don't give a rat's ass how much this offends somebody. Oh, don't you feel like you should? No. I'm out of compassion to give. The second you sexualize kids, that's it. You're an enemy. Renounce it. Has he renounced it?
He hasn't renounced it yet. Right? By the way, you don't get to play the victim card when all that's been done. And by the way, CNN wanted to use harsher language in this. His campaign of criticism. He's critiquing his work.
CNN just had a producer who was called. What was the name of the producer? We were just talking about that. Was
every one of them?
Yes. No, that's Stelter's interns. Oh, right. He's no longer there. Harvard senior fellow interns. Who was the person at CNN just recently? They're undergoing.
He was one of the producers of Don Lemon Show.
Who could guess?
Whoever. But criticism. His campaign of criticism. He's basically just saying, hey, I think you did a bad job of taking care of this one area. By the way, here's your PhD thesis paper, which seems, he said it like this, it seems to advocate for underage gay sex.
Well, not even seems to. It just to suggest it should. Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Elon was right on his wording, but he worded it just like that. But that's all we're talking about is I've done bad deeds and now they're being brought to light. But because they're being brought to light, I'm now the victim. That's Joel Roth right now.
He believes that no good deed goes unsexed if it's a 15-year-old boy. Hey, Fauci right now is on CNN. Just so we'll go back to all the other reasons. Hospitals across the United States overwhelmed by flu, COVID, RSV cases. Don't you love how they just blend in? What happened to the ticker of COVID deaths? Now flu is listed first. Let's hear what the science has to say. Keep in mind, child sex offenders, right? Producers at CNN. We only know the ones that we caught. Let's see what it has to say.
To protect them, their family, and society, we have a vaccine for flu, and we're having a pretty bad and early flu season. If you look at the trajectory...
If only people could have listened to Dr. Rob McCullough, who was banned from Twitter, from Facebook. Our episode taken down when we had him on before he went anywhere else, just to be clear. If only someone could have been saying, if you keep doing this, you're going to have a horrible flu season. If only someone knew it when Fauci was the science. You removed all of them.
Oh, was staying inside for so long bad for your immune system to not be out with people? Oh, who knew?
Oh, it's a scientific thing. You don't understand.
I wouldn't have assumed that myself.
No, I know. It's
probably why I kept traveling as a germaphobe.
Don't concern yourself with our science things. Let's hear what he's saying.
Mask appropriately in an indoor setting.
Shut
I'm
up.
not talking about mandating anything. I'm talking about the common sense of when you go into a mask setting, particularly when you have a lot of infection like that you think about the possibility of wearing a mask. And one of the somewhat encouraging things is RSV, as bad as it is, particularly for young children and elderly, we have peaked there, it looks like, and it's starting to come down. So let's hope it continues to have a trajectory down.
This is the problem. This is the problem with having hall monitors run your country. Look, there's some risk in life, and at a certain point you accept the risk. No one here is saying that COVID wasn't real. No one here is saying that COVID was not significantly more lethal to certain demographics than the standard flu, particularly the elderly and immune compromised. No one here is saying that. We are just saying that people had the right to make informed decisions. They had the right to hear from Dr. Rob McCullough just as much as Elon Musk. They had the right to hear from those practicing physicians in Los Angeles and in Florida when those videos were removed from all of social media, because part of what they were shouting from the rooftops is exactly what's happening now. Do you see the problem with limiting speech? Do you see it? It comes back to bite you every single time. Okay, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, the CNN producer you were asking about before was John Griffin from Chris Cuomo's old show. He allegedly led a perverted double life, where he was part of a sordid BDSM ring that included a child, a 9-year-old girl.
Jeez. Oh, so it was Chris Cuomo who also led a perverted double life.
Yeah. Well, he just grabbed it. He just smacked his secretary in the butt or something. He didn't. The point is, BDSM with a 9-year-old girl, allegedly. If it becomes not allegedly, let me ask you this. Comment below. If someone was part of an underground sex ring, right, with a 9-year-old girl, this is a question. I want you to comment below. There's strength in numbers. And by the way, let's keep it. Let's keep it. I don't want to say civil. Let's just not make it any more filthy or aggressive than it needs to be. I want you to comment below. I want you to comment below. Genuinely here. If it's no longer allegedly, 9-year-old girl. That's what you said, Dr. Allen? Yeah. 9-year-old girl BDSM sex ring. If it no longer becomes allegedly, meaning found guilty, death penalty. Would you support that? If it no longer is allegedly, legally is what I'm asking you. What do you think about people who sexually abuse 9-year-old girls or boys? If you're not willing to die on this hill, I pray to God that you don't have kids. Anyway, we go back to this Roth, who is an absolute piece of shit. So, thank you. We'll get this back on track. Here's reason number 2. So, the guy who supports pedophilia, the guy who met with U.S. intelligence agencies, by the way, the CIA, remember how much child porn they found on those computers? We covered that later. Not saying there's some secret cabal of everyone who's a pedophile. Yeah, we did. What I'm saying is there are enough pedophiles and enough people who don't have a problem with pedophilia and child sex trafficking could do something about it. In other words, here's the problem. It's not that someone is a that is a problem. I shouldn't say it's not that. That is a problem. Just to be clear, it's always a problem. Problem. Someone says, not a problem. No, problem if you're a pedophile. But the real problem, the more significant problem, I'm going to choose my words very carefully here because I wouldn't want to offend pedophiles. The real problem, beyond people being pedophiles or advocating for it, is people at intelligence agencies who could stop it. For example, Larry Nasser. It's people at intelligence agencies who are tasked with keeping you safe and you are told to trust. It's people in charge of departments like Twitter, Trust, and Safety who are advocating for it. So in other words, pedophilia, right? It's a very small percentage of the population. But you only need a few of those people in positions of power for it to have catastrophic results, like child porn proliferating across Twitter. Oh, and the intelligence agencies don't do anything about it. You think Chris Cuomo was going to cover this? You think his producer was going to put that into his prick document? This brings us to reason number 2. Oh, we already hit it. Reason number 2. Roth, so this is pedophile to begin with. He was also the person in charge of censoring Hunter Biden laptop story, which I don't know if you know, involved sex with a minor. Sexting with a niece, with a minor. That softens the blow.
Niece's feet.
Yeah, something like that. So this is what he said about the story, Mr. Roth. Given the severe risks here and lessons of 2016, we're erring on the side of including a warning and preventing the content from being amplified. Okay, you did that with Hunter Biden, and by the way, it was the U.S. intelligence agencies who told you that it was some kind of a Russian hoax, right? Russian disinformation campaign and hoax. But I understand that you want to err on the side of safety, that's your job, including a warning preventing the content from being amplified.
Which is a fun word for, being told about.
Right, yes,
or
exactly.
spoke about, or letting people know.
Well, here's the thing, he's doing it for safety. Hey, so preventing it from being amplified, preventing it from being shared.
Yeah.
How about child porn? How about child porn? Oh, no, wait, if we bring it up, it's a threat. And then CNN talks about what a victim you are, that other people are mad, that you didn't put the same labels or do your job to protect children. I say this as, if you are a dad and you are not furious, and look, we do a lot of stuff here, and I'm not on board with the rage porn. I am absolutely furious. I am absolutely filled with rage that this was going on. And I'm even more angry that we don't know what's going on at Google, at YouTube, at Facebook, and Instagram. That we don't know. We just know what we see. We know that we see content that isn't age restricted, which borders or is outright pornography. Other people in charge, like we now know at Twitter, and the FBI, and the DHS, who are saying, that's okay, spend your time throttling the Hunter laptop story. It's the only instance, ironically, the only instance where some form of underage pornography might have actually been throttled. So, hey, you were accidentally less of a piece of shit, Roth. Which brings us to the number 1 reason that this guy is a piece of human excrement. Obviously, we know about Hunter Biden. Yeah. Okay, that's pretty bad. That affected the outcome of the election. According to the polls, we know that for a fact. If people knew about Hunter Biden laptop story, he's still a president.
But for some reason, lots of Americans don't.
Lots of Americans do not. It's tough. It's tough to find the story if you have to stroll through oodles of pedophilic pornography. I know. You only have so much time in the day. So Roth actually was very integral in removing Trump, the sitting president, from Twitter. So he tried to find an excuse to flag Trump's tweet about mail-in voting. Here's what the tweet was. We read this yesterday. Big problems and discrepancies with mail-in ballots all over the USA. Must have final total on November 3rd. We must. Just must. And Roth's response in an internal Twitter channel was, I agree with the recommendation. Flagging right now with leadership, given that it's President of the United States. Can we use a new, is it Doc P2 review? Yeah. I don't know what that means.
I, P2, whatever. Again, he's just trying to find a way to do it, right? A minute ago when he talked about the Hunter Biden laptop story, he said, given the extreme, all caps, risk. I'm sorry?
Yeah.
The extreme risk of putting that story out there? What extreme risk? What are you talking about? And the lessons of 2016. I'm sorry, how did those two things go together? Oh, you mean that Donald Trump got elected? The extreme risk is that Donald Trump might win the presidency again?
Yeah.
And we learned our lesson in 2016, so therefore we have to ban this? Is that what you're saying? Because I don't understand. Now you're looking at a very benign tweet about the Postal Service that you guys said was ruined by DeJoy, that was making everybody not be able to get their votes in on time. This is what you guys said. And now you're just trying to find a way to ban him for it?
Yeah.
Just any way you possibly can? This is the most obvious, clear election meddling case that I've ever seen in my life.
Along with Vijay.
Yeah.
But at least Vijay wasn't.
She was on another
At least Vijay wasn't, a pederast. So let me just go here really quick. We have this, and you can hit the like button, hit the share button. It helps with the algorithm because YouTube wants you to think we're dead. Certainly when we're discussing an issue like this.
With proof.
Yes. When addressing the Twitter policy to ban Trump, here's what Roth wrote. And again, all the references are available. I highly recommend you read all the Twitter files. It says, to put a different spin on it, policy is one part of the system of how Twitter works. The other part is me.
Yes, that's exactly.
Like gay pen labyrinth eyes. Me.
I'm the worst.
Hope he gets the bottle treatment.
I do.
That was okay. I'm joking. I'm joking figuratively. Of course, because it would be wrong. It would be wrong. It would be wrong to have any disdain for someone who advocates for sex with children.
No, you've never had
Bottle service. They get a drink.
Yes, bottle service.
Yeah.
Crystal.
Crystal, baby.
Crystal.
Yeah.
His own table.
Go query, it's your birthday. Now, there are different things you can change when you want to affect different behaviors. Policy and enforcement are one. We ran into the world changing faster than we were able to either adapt the product or the policy. And by the way, Donald Trump, who many in the Republican side, I should say, it always does raise questions why so many people who you think are your allies dislike them. I mean, the reasons that we disagree with them certainly had nothing to do with the reasons that a lot of other Republicans dislike them, if that makes sense. Trump was aware of what Roth was doing all the way back in May 2020. Here's a clip.
Here's one. This is the arbiter. This guy is the arbiter of what's supposed to go on Twitter. He's the one he thought, and he used CNN as a guide. CNN, which is fake news. He uses CNN as a guide. His name is Yoel Roth, and he's the one that said that mail-in balloting, you look at mail-in. No fraud, really? Why did you take a look all over the country? There's cases all over the country. So here, excuse me, wait a minute, I'm not finished. So here's your man, And that's on Twitter.
Boy, would I have loved for Donald Trump to be out there and read his thesis or his tweets. Here's the man. Look, here's the man. He wrote, Kate Downer wants kids. Excuse me. He wants kids to have sex with adults. It's gross. Look at this. Look at how gross. Excuse me. A lot of people have told me that he thinks that otters. I don't know what that means, an otter, but I do know that it means apparently he wants to do things that are frankly very not nice. Not nice things with children. We have a problem. We want people who don't want to do nice things with children. Sir, that's not true. Excuse me. Why didn't he read that? We didn't have access to it.
Yep. Well, and also whoever yelled that's not true, I think should have to go on to the news channel tonight and read his thesis.
Yes, I think they should have to walk the plank.
Yeah. Go ahead and say why is it not true, and go ahead and read what he thinks.
And that's a reflection of the spirit. What he said is absolutely unequivocally true. What they would say is you don't have proof. Well, now we have proof. They've moved on to the
Holding
story.
up the New York Times while saying there's two people saying that. It's incredible to me.
You know what else we have proof of, people? That you keep on missing? You just keep on missing. And you don't understand how ideological subversion works.
Thank you very much. Henry Kissinger has been a friend of mine. I've liked him, I've respected him, but we've been friends for a long time, long before my emergence in the world of politics, which has not been too long. But we have been really in the, I guess you'd say the New York scene a little bit, but we got to know each other very well. He's a man I have great respect for. He's also somebody, usually I say, have you ever been in the Oval Office? And with Henry Kissinger, I didn't bother asking that question because he has been in this office many, many times. But it's an honor to have Dr. Kissinger with us, a man of immense talent and experience and knowledge. And I'm going to talk to him for a while, and we're going to learn a lot. But I can say from a world standpoint, and with many of the countries that Henry and I would talk about before the election, because I would talk with Henry before the election, we've made a lot of progress with many of them. We have some outstanding, and we'll handle that as we have to handle it. But we've made a lot of progress in the Middle East with ISIS and so many other things. It's a much calmer place. But Henry, I say often, I inherited a mess, but we're fixing it. So you may want to say something. And thank you for being here, Henry. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, I didn't expect this opportunity. It's always a great honor to be in this office. And I'm here at a moment when the opportunity to build a constructive, peaceful world order is very great.
Build a constructive, peaceful world order.
Build a constructive, peaceful world order. It's very great.
And that's what you people seem to keep on fucking missing.
But that authoritarian insanity has also resulted in an unprecedented number of people who are finally starting to question things. When someone starts to feel ignored, neglected, mistreated, and abused by those in power, there are often several stages that person goes through. If they've always seen themselves as good citizens because they've always followed the rules, it can be a bit of a shock when they come to realize that the rules, more often than not, benefit a few greedy bastards and harm everyone else. They may begin to feel indignant at having been mistreated by those in power when for so long they prided themselves on being law-abiding taxpayers, while assuming, even if only subconsciously, that meant that things would go well for them. Just do as you're told and everything will be okay, right? So they may start by being angry at particular politicians who happen to be in power at that moment. If not for the bad decisions of those people, they think, this wouldn't have happened. Ironically, supporters of both major parties in such a situation will usually blame the other party while overlooking the fact that their own party was at least complacent and negligent, if not outright cooperating in the injustice. The first stage of rebelliousness of the victims of injustice is, therefore, to argue against one set of political opportunists in favor of a different set of political opportunists, threatening to vote out the rascals they think are responsible for the situation and vote in new rascals. The abused citizen may angrily comment on the matter privately or publicly, and may even write to their congressman expressing their dissatisfaction, and may insist and demand that the problem be remedied post-haste. But what are such demands backed by? Usually, absolutely nothing. Like a little child on a playground demanding that the bully, 3 times his size, stop picking on him, it's really just pathetic begging. It's not demanding anything. The closest thing the average political victim will threaten to do is wait a few years and then vote for a different politician who will also end up betraying and abusing him. Deep down inside, the wronged citizen knows damn well that his own whining and complaining carries exactly no weight compared to the influence of those people and corporations with nearly unlimited funding and connections. Nonetheless, the outraged citizen, not knowing what else to do, continues to tilt at windmills, as they say, begging for the politicians to please stop abusing him. while spouting empty cliches such as, "You work for me and I pay your salary." And the abuse continues. Next, those abused by the system may get zealously politically active, forming or joining organizations and movements, having protests, handing out flyers and petitions, and complaining about how what's happening is unfair or unconstitutional, or even putting up their own candidates for this or that political office. In a dozen different ways, they desperately try to use the system to finally serve the interests of the little guy, instead of always serving big money interests, whoever can afford lobbyists, etc. And the abuse continues. Countless well-intentioned people throw vast amounts of time, energy, hope, and money at the political system, and in return, the system gives them nothing. Except every once in a while, some little scrap, which is usually trivial, and taken away soon thereafter. And the abuse continues. But what else can be done when you've ranted and raved and petitioned and voted and protested and begged until you're blue in the face, and those who wield power still demonstrate that they just don't care what you want? What then? Maybe a bigger protest, maybe vote even harder next time. You can try and try, telling yourself that at least you're doing something, and the abuse will continue. Now, you may be encouraged when you see hundreds or even thousands of people showing up outside some Capitol building in whatever state or country and loudly saying what they think, telling those politicians just how much they disapprove of the politicians' actions. But then what? What do you expect to happen as a result? Were you under the impression that the politicians really care about you but just weren't quite sure of what you wanted? Are these politicians well-intentioned and noble, but possibly hard of hearing or something, so a bunch of people loudly asking for freedom might make them see the error of their ways? No. Deep down inside, you already know that the politicians know what you want. They just don't care at all. They knew you wouldn't like this. They knew it would hurt you. They did it anyway. If some little kid is being stomped on by a bully 3 times his size, is it really going to help to tell the bully that it hurts and that the child really wants it to stop? Might the bully suddenly proclaim, "Oh, my mistake, I thought you were enjoying this. I will stop at once." So at this point, the victim of authoritarian abuse is in the stage of feeling totally frustrated and helpless, mistreated and unheard, neglected and victimized. And as a victim, he starts to lose hope, finally, in the process, in voting and petitioning, in the political system. The victim finally lets himself see and accept what has been true all along. The politicians don't represent you. They rule you. They are not public servants. They are your masters. They are exploiters and thieves, tyrants and abusers. You can't appeal to their consciences. They don't have those. They are not just misguided. They did not just make a mistake. They treat you as subjects because they view you as subjects, and always have. They walk all over you with an occasional dash of dishonest rhetoric now and then to make you think that they give a damn about you. They will do whatever they want, rob you and control you, victimize and abuse you, and they expect you to take it. Now, they expect you to whine and complain on occasion, but at the end of the day, they also expect you to comply and obey. And as long as you do, they couldn't care less about what else you think or say or do. You are bleating sheep to them. If they notice the noise at all, they're laughing at you. Look at the poor peasants pleading with us as if we care what the livestock wants. They have their multi-million-dollar donors, the people who own their souls. Why on earth would they set aside all the power, money, and influence they get from playing that game just to do what you want? Just to give you a little more freedom? Why would you ever expect that of them? Why would you even bother asking that of them? So, what? A revolution? Time to break out the guillotines? Civil war? Charge off and overthrow the government? Mayhem and bloodshed? An understandable thought, and sometimes even a justified one, but not necessary and ultimately not really useful. How many revolutions in history, in short order, just ended up creating a new ruling class that was just as bad as the one before? Or worse? Pretty much all of them. And yes, that includes the American Revolution. What Congress and the state governments do here to the people on a daily basis is far worse than anything that King George III ever even dreamed of. And besides, who among us is really eager and willing to trade in the relatively easy existence we now have with the widespread, prolonged death and destruction of a revolution? No thanks. Thankfully, there's a much more effective way, and while it is physically pretty easy, psychologically it can be very difficult and uncomfortable for all those who've always believed somewhere in the back of their minds that sooner or later the system will provide justice, that the good guys will win, that those who follow the rules will be rewarded, and that if we wave a flag and pledge allegiance, tyrants will fail. But that is, and has always been, a lie. Oppression and tyranny always happen in the name of law, not in spite of it. Freedom is always illegal. Listen carefully and at least let this one concept sink in. Freedom is always illegal. Those who wield power always use it to enrich themselves and their buddies at the expense of the freedom and prosperity of everybody else. Always. People don't run for office and seek positions of power in order to leave you alone. They do it so they can rob, dominate, and control you. Deep down inside, you know this is true about all politicians, everywhere, including the ones you
voted for. Whatever dishonest...
So let me recap this for you, and then we're going to actually discuss the drag queens who've been invited to the Biden White House. We're going to do that on Mug Club only.
I'm already angry.
I know, but we'll do it on Mug Club only because that one, even if you can believe it, is even worse than this right now. Is this the world? Sorry.
Merry Christmas.
It's a Christmas miracle.
You know what I want? I want you to go down there to Twitter Lane and bring him right here with this red
At least 9/11 brought camaraderie.
Just kidding. Jack, I brought you a Christmas gift. Where are the others, pedophile?
These are all notes to pederasts.
These are all grown-up pictures.
Are these gay porn pictures to the gay dating man who's labeled Santa Claus? That's his handle.
Yes. Now, Otter Claus.
Otter Claus. So you prefer Santa Seal? We could go all day, baby.
Come on.
I could go on forever, baby.
No.
Here's the deal.
I'm done.
Roth, not only do we know, let's go through this. Hated conservatives. Okay, we know that. Colluded with intelligence agencies to remove conservatives. Sure. Specifically conservatives who spoke out against child sex trafficking. We know that. Why? Because he's a pervert who advocated for underage people to have sex with adults. He said underage teenagers to have sex with adults. And he also talked about how sexy it was for him to have pictures holding a child in his hairy arms. He was invariably involved with the censoring of all conservatives with any major stories, including the Hunter Biden laptop story, which intelligence agencies told him was a part of a Russian disinformation campaign, which was echoed by all of the media, mind you. And he was a key player in banning President Trump, who was then sitting President Trump. By the way, while you have leaders of other countries who currently have child brides, I know he would prefer that they have child husbands, but you know what? He'll take them where he can get them. He's allowed them to stay on, Donald Trump to be removed. This is a guy who was in charge of content at Twitter. My question to you is, what is it that you think exists at YouTube, at Google, at Facebook, at Instagram? No one has purchased them. You can comment below. No one has purchased them, so we do not have access, because these are either private companies or the companies where someone cannot go in and audit the kind of content. And let me make one more thing clear here. And again, look, we just asked, we don't want to lose touch with you. We have our major announcement tomorrow, mugclubforever.com. It's the only reason we're able to speak on all of these issues, and our goal is never to be removed, but if we speak the truth, and we make sure that we substantiate it, we accept those consequences, we can do it because of you. I ask that you stick with us and that we do not lose touch with you. Let's get away from the idea of a stolen election, because of course you can't discuss that. Of course you can't say that intelligence agencies, mainstream media, and those at big tech colluded to try and alter the election. You can't say that. You can't say that the Hunter Biden story would have actually altered the outcome of the election, except for the fact that Biden voters themselves said that it absolutely would. You can't argue, right? We can't argue that for some reason out there there are groomers. You're not allowed to talk about that because it's a term that's no longer allowed. Also, the term woman is no longer allowed. The term patriot is no longer allowed. But Donald Trump was removed. The Hunter Biden laptop story was removed. People who criticized Twitter's policy regarding child pornography were removed. People who were conservative were removed. I'm not talking about a stolen election, because I would never say that. Look, hey, you're now experiencing a stealing of your country. Let me put a fine point on it. Do you believe the United States is a country where those in power support sex with children? If not, there are enough people, not all of them, of course not, but there are enough people in positions of authority who think that that should be a part of the fabric of our country. Let's not talk about an election. You are having your country stolen from you. And to be clear, not talking about open borders, though I have a problem with that. I'm not talking about people coming on work visas. I am talking about people in positions of power who have decided that values that we have held since the beginning of the founding of this country, and by the way, all of Western civilization, that not only should they no longer be a part of our values, not only should they be a voice at the table, but that they shouldn't be uttered at all. Because they're so offensive, you actually have to be banned. One side is arguing for free speech absolutism, and I get comes with like those black Hebrew Israelites we just discussed, right? Who said that they like Hitler. I get it. There's bad that comes with free speech absolutism. The other side is advocating for silencing of people who are out there advocating for traditional heteronormative marriages, the nuclear family, voter ID, and believe in harsh punishments for pedophiles. They want those people removed. How do I know? Check all the references. They removed them. It's not about a stolen election. It's about a stolen country. And you know what? I'm not mad at people like this. You can't be mad at someone, a snake, for being a snake. Aren't there people in positions of power who share our values who can fight back? Why are we the ones doing it? Don't we need more effective fighters on our side? And I don't mean people just going out being bombastic. I don't mean being an asshole, though. You know what? Most of us here are. I'm okay with it. Where's our people? Why did it take Elon Musk, a lifelong Democrat billionaire? Hey, where are all the billionaires who we know on the right? Where are they? Why didn't you do what Elon Musk did? It's no longer about a stolen election. It's about a stolen country.
Like I've been saying this whole fucking time.
But the facts of the matter are that this nation's foes have openly boasted of acquiring through our newspapers information they would otherwise hire agents to acquire through theft, bribery, or espionage. That details of this nation's covert preparations, the count of the enemy's covert operations, have been available to every newspaper reader, friend and foe alike. That the size, the strength, the location, and the nature of our forces and weapons, and our plans and strategy for their use, have all been pinpointed in the press and other news media to a degree sufficient to satisfy any foreign power. And that in at least one case, the publication of details concerning a secret mechanism whereby satellites were followed required its alteration at the expense of considerable time and money. The newspapers which printed these stories were loyal, patriotic, responsible, and well-meaning. Had we been engaged in open warfare, they undoubtedly would not have published such items. But in the absence of open warfare, they recognized only the tests of journalism and not the tests of national security. And my question tonight is whether additional tests should not now be adopted. That question is for you alone to answer. No public official should answer it for you. No governmental plan should impose its restraints against your will. But I would be failing in my duty to the nation in considering all of the responsibilities that we now bear and all of the means at hand to meet those responsibilities if I did not commend this problem to your attention and urge its thoughtful consideration. On many earlier occasions I have said, and your newspapers have constantly said, that these are times that appeal to every citizen's sense of sacrifice and self-discipline. They call out to every citizen to weigh his rights and comforts against his obligations to the common good. I cannot now believe that those citizens who serve in this deadly challenge imposes upon our society two requirements of direct concern, both to the press and to the president. Two requirements that may seem almost contradictory in tone, but which must be reconciled and fulfilled if we are to meet this national peril. I refer first to the need for far greater public information, and second, to the need for far greater official secrecy. The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. But I do ask every publisher, every editor, and every newsman in the nation to re-examine his own standards and to recognize the nature of our country's peril. In time of war, the government and the press have customarily joined in an effort based largely on self-discipline to prevent unauthorized disclosures to the enemy. In times of clear and present danger, the courts have held that even the privileged rights of the First Amendment must yield to the public's need for national security. Today, no war has been declared, and however fierce the struggle may be, it may never be declared in the traditional fashion. Our way of life is under attack. Those who make themselves our enemy are advancing around the globe. The survival of our friends is in danger, and yet no war has been declared. No borders have been crossed by marching troops. No missiles have been fired. If the press is awaiting a declaration of war before it imposes the self-discipline of combat conditions, then I can only say that no war ever posed a greater threat to our security. If you are awaiting a finding of clear and present danger, then I can only say that the danger has never been more clear, and its presence has never been more imminent. It requires a change in outlook, a change in tactics, a change in missions, by the government, by the people, by every businessman or labor leader, and by every newspaper. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is spreaded, no secret is revealed. It conducts the Cold War in short, with a wartime discipline no democracy would ever hope or wish to match.
Of our country? Not doing a fucking thing about it. MugClubForever.com. Don't let us lose touch with you. We are going to be back, of course, tomorrow with far more to discuss. And you know what? There'll be a little more levity. It's really weird. You would think that a guy who talks about being a sex otter would be fodder for a funnier show, and instead everyone here just wants to leave a us-shaped hole through the wall.
It's too infuriating.
YouTube, you can piss off. This has been Yoel Roth. What a piece of shit.
That is why you need to pay attention. Alright, so why am I saying important to pay attention? It's real simple. Why do you think I make these videos? Why do you think I put in all the time to upload, go around the out, learn all this shit to get the information to you? If you just heard what he just told you, and yet I have a video that says all my personal warnings, public 69 videos, I go over and I look for this video of November 1st, 2020. What happens when I click it? Is that the video? Is that my account? No. So, what happens if I copy the link, go over to Brave, and paste it? Nothing comes up. An access token is required to request this source. Auth exception 104 code FB trace ID. Facebook trace ID. Can't come up in Brave. So I have to find a way around it. So I simply just share it. And when I share it, I go to my page.
Alright, I don't know how else to do this, but I'm trying
Let's look at it.
to do this with the systems and the powers that be.
What does it say? What does it say? Dan Bongino, Nomley, Joe Rogan, Lex Friedman, Eric Weinstein, Cash Kelly, Glenn Beck, Valuetami, London Real, Alex Jones, Banned Videos, David Icke Fans Group, Human Race, Get Off Your Knees, Donald Trump, Breitbart, Insider, Washington Post, New York Post, and Ben Shapiro. What did I say? November 1st, 2020.
Because of this social dilemma and all the things that I've been trying to say to go viral across the world, like watching the social dilemma and the fucking, excuse my French, and the point of watching it for the enlightened education that you get from watching it, which is now...
And now that I shared it, just to make this video, let's go over to my Facebook and see. What do we have? No one else can see your post because of our community standards. We removed your post from blah, blah, blah. We removed your post. So now, my account is restricted, and I can't even make a post. Imagine that.
Because what did Kanye say? That everybody took out of context in their 2-minute segments of the news. Imagine if you could only have a 2-minute conversation with your loved one and be able to think you're communicating with them to have a relationship. You can only spend 2 minutes to talk, and that's it. Do you understand this yet? So what do you have going on in New York City?
Clay Center in Brooklyn. And before you look, don't go into the whole Kanye thing. Just listen to what they have to say first, and then when you understand the historical context of Hitler, it's kind of hysterical. Here they are, black nationalists praising Kanye and Hitler.
Why don't I feel good about what Kanye said? Well, I'll talk mainly about Kanye. I'm Jewish, and he's praising Hitler, saying the Nazis were cool, and saying Holocaust didn't happen.
Yeah, now we support Hitler.
All of you?
Because Hitler was killing your people, man. Hitler knew who the real Jews was. Hitler wasn't oppressing my people. He was coming for your necks.
Holy crap. It kind of was, though.
Let me give you a wake-up call, man. You're not a Jew. You're not a Jew, right? You're the seed of the devil, man. Right? These brothers are so on these platforms, Kanye and Kyrie, shaking things up. It's because there's a great awakening happening. The real Jews are back on the streets. And you so-called fake Jews who stole our identity are going to go into slavery. Because you're not a Jew, right?
Did the Holocaust happen?
It did happen, and we're glad that it happened.
Sheesh.
Whoa. Okay. But there's a lot to...
It's like having Christmas already.
There's a lot to unpack there, but
Never mind.
not much.
That was insane.
It's pretty straightforward. Here's the thing.
I mean, not the craziest thing I've heard on the street in New York.
No, absolutely not. Well, the craziest thing I've heard is that, I'm Jesus. But it's always the homeless guy, like, peeing down, the sewer drain. It's never the guy making copies.
Yeah, it's true.
And you're like, I'm Jesus. You're like, really? Oh, that's what you did this weekend. So, just to be clear, Hitler, wherever you line up on this, let's say you really don't like Jews, if you're a black nationalist, like you're a black Hebrew Israelite. Hitler was oppressing your people. Hitler wanted to kill all of your people unless your people were blonde hair and blue eyes. Here's what Hitler wrote in Mein Kampf regarding blacks.
Everybody except that
Yes.
exact brand of person.
And he was exempt.
Yep.
Jews were responsible for bringing Negroes into the Rhineland, and with the ultimate idea of bastardizing the white race, which they hate, and thus lowering its cultural and political level so that the Jew might dominate. The mulatto, reading as Hitler, people.
Which is a good choice.
The mulatto children came about through rape, or the white mother was a whore. In both cases, there is not the slightest moral duty regarding these offspring of a foreign race. Just to be clear, blacks couldn't attend university or public schools under Hitler. And by the way, black white children were forcibly sterilized if they were of mixed race. So Hitler wasn't oppressing my people. Okay, you're not going to understand this answer.
I'm glad we got rid of Dr. Seuss.
Yes.
I'm glad you have a platform and all kinds of people supporting you out in public.
And by people supporting them, you mean nobody.
No, I mean the guy standing around him. I like the guy who's Jewish. He goes, yeah, I'm half Jewish. He says, all of you think that?
Yeah.
Where did I walk into?
He's like, all of you think the Holocaust was a good thing?
You should probably run the other way, person.
Well, maybe it's because people are stupid and reactionary.
Yeah, that could be it, too.
Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
That's what it is. They're uneducated. They don't know what they're talking about, so they're going at it. And people are very angry, and that's what they do. They want to direct their anger at somebody, and this is the result of it. When you don't actually research something, you're supporting somebody who wanted you dead.
Yeah.
Look it up and stop being stupid.
Which is funny because I also don't understand how it makes sense. Like, he wasn't oppressing my people. Well, you mean black people? But I'm the real Jew. Well, then we're right back to...
It's just...
Wait, hold on a second. Do you mean to say that he wasn't oppressing black people, which he was, or he wasn't oppressing the true Jews, which you claim to be, that you are, but you... What are you saying? I'm saying Jesus was a Jew. Well, that we could agree on.
So you're saying genuine Jews he hated? Yes. And you're genuinely Jew? Yes. I see.
Oh, okay.
So do you get it? Do you get it? Now, what is the point of this? What was Kanye actually trying to say? What Kanye was actually trying to say is this. What I've said a million times about caring, corrupted, killing nurses of the Third Reich. Why is it so important to know your history? Why? What are the videos that I upload?
Why did Nike swoosh mean something to you? Why we want to be like Mike instead of want to be like Christ? Why every half the numbers in the NBA is number 23? All of that is branding, mental branding. And then you get a brother like Kyrie, well-read information. And another thing, you take like Jalen Brown, you take Kyrie, you take a couple people, right, who they family is going to be all right no matter what. You know what I'm saying? I got a couple family members that might ask me for a loan here and there, but my family got jobs, right? So that means that I don't have to listen to nothing nobody got to say. If I want to get rid of all my money and go to like riding skateboards or driving an Uber for the rest of my life, I can do that. But you know what they go and do to the NBA players? They'll be like, well, what about grandma? What about your auntie? You don't want to go back. You don't want to be shamed. You know, because they got a position. They're going to give you some type of job, some type of Shaquille O'Neal job for the rest of your life as long as you play the game. And with Kyrie, he got 1 year left. They question it, like, will he even go, will he go play basketball again? And it's interesting to me. I know you got a question later about Candace Owens. Man, you got to understand. Like, in 1 week, I went in Trump, Alex Jones, and then I Elon. Like, in a matter of 10 days, right? Where's the lies? You know what I'm saying? Because everybody's beholden to somebody, right? And I got to say, I'm proud of.
So a lot to unpack there. The first bar he said was, they got you trying to be like Mike. Why aren't you trying to be like Christ? I mean, that's a pretty epic line. He also talks about how the sports industries control people and basically say, do you want to...
The lack of focus on the differences in people. The lack of focus in understanding that some people have certain circumstances and others have totally different circumstances and really should be handling this totally differently and receiving this.
Job. And, I thought about this on Twitter. Let me know what you think about this. I do feel, even though I love sports, I love watching sports, playing sports, I'm an athlete myself, I do think the sports leagues are a form of control because back in ancient days, whether it's Rome, probably Africa, Greece, it wasn't just philosophers. Of course, there were really smart people, but some of the greatest leaders in history were also warriors, physically strong men. I think people that are great physically, mentally, and they're taking all of the greatest physical specimens of our time. If you're not in the MMA, you don't have the right to speak freely. They're probably the only ones. But you get to play for this league, and then they control what you say, control what you think. So they're taking some of our strongest men, which used to be the leaders of society and the leaders of war, and basically you're being controlled by the Adam Silvers of the world into being pro BLM, pro rainbow flag, but you can't criticize their agenda. So I do think it is kind of a form of control. And he says, they put these cushy, Shaquille O'Neal jobs over your head and say, do you want this or do you want to speak your mind? I thought that was great.
America needs a superhero. Hello, everyone. This is Donald Trump, hopefully your favorite president of all time, better than Lincoln, better than Washington, with an important announcement to make. I'm doing my first official Donald J. Trump NFT collection right here and right now.
Hey, what's up, folks? So Trump teased a major trailer, and people were pumped, thinking thinking it was going to be something huge and important, and then he ended up dropping his digital NFT collection, which stars him as a digital superhero. But also on the same day, Trump rolled out his idea for a digital Bill of Rights.
If we don't have free speech, then we just don't have a free country. It's as simple as that. If this most fundamental right is allowed to perish, then the rest of our rights and liberties will topple, just like dominoes, one by one. They'll go down. That's why today I'm announcing my plan to shatter the left-wing censorship regime and to reclaim the right to free speech for all Americans. And reclaim is a very important word in this case because they've taken it away.
And other interesting conversations around stopping tech censorship. We're going to react to both videos and ask the question today, did Trump's team screw up, or was this a purposeful plan to bring more attention? Let me know what you think in the comment section, and the show starts.
So, digital Internet Bill of Rights. What did the World Economic Forum people say?
What underpins a world order is always the financial system. I was very privileged. My father was an advisor to Nixon when they came off the gold standard in '71, and so I was brought up with a kind of inside view of how very important the financial structure is to absolutely everything else. And what we're seeing in the world today, I think, is we are on the brink of a dramatic change where we are about to, and I'll say this boldly, we're about to abandon the traditional system of money and accounting and introduce a new one. And the new accounting is what we call blockchain. It means digital. It means having a almost perfect record of every single transaction that happens in the economy, which will give us far greater clarity over what's going on. It also raises huge dangers in terms of the balance of power between states and citizens. In my opinion, we're going to need a digital constitution of human rights.
What is liberty? What's that? He says you can't build muscle and
But y'all don't want to fucking listen.
See, you have to go to a different platform to understand that. Let's see. Let's see what they said.
Really acquiring divine powers of creation and destruction. We are really upgrading humans into gods. We are acquiring, for instance, the power to re-engineer life. Humans are now hackable animals. You know, the whole idea that humans have, you know, they have this soul or spirit and they have free will and nobody knows what's happening inside me. So whatever I choose, whether in the election or whether in the supermarket, this is my free will, that's over. I mean, all this story about Jesus rising from the dead and being the Son of God, this is fake news. I know that in recent years, we saw populist politicians undermine.
Why is that important? But if you shake the jar, the ants will start killing each other. So you need to know who's shaking the jar. Because in order to divide and conquer, you must be able to hack humans. So you need to understand biology, you need to have data, and you need to have computing power. So you can manipulate them and know that their emotions are going to make them reactionary. Okay?
people in his comment section are still asleep. Many people think that Trump is coming to save us. He's not. He pointed out that MAGA translated into Latin means witch, and so many people were in the comment section saying he's hunting the witches. But what if he's not? Because as you continue to wake up, you keep going down the rabbit holes and you find truths that aren't very comfortable. One of them being that MAGA is the 5th degree of hierarchy in the Church of Satan. I know this sucks to hear because a lot of us want to put our hope in man, but that's how sneaky the enemy is. We have Elon out here deceiving so many people on the right in the name of freedom of speech. So many people are being deceived by putting their hope in man, whether that's Elon, Trump, or whoever. We're called to put our hope in Jesus Christ. There is no politics, there is no right, there is no left, there's good versus evil. Sorry.
Just one thing first. Joe Biden called it a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Andrew Neil, formerly of this parish, spoke of punishing the unvaccinated. Jeremy Vine spoke figuratively of holding people down and forcibly jabbing them. Oddly,
the smiling fascist, Justin Trudeau of Canada, called the unvaccinated racist. Quite a leap, that one, and a bit rich from a man famous for blackface. But as a spokesperson from Pfizer admitted in the Dutch Parliament this week, the vaccine was never tested for transmission. In other words, stopping you giving COVID to others. So what the authorities told us about stopping the spread with a jab was a total lie. Take it to protect Granny, a historic falsehood. Whilst safe for most, though we can't be sure, we don't have long-term data, large numbers of people around the world have suffered severe side effects, and some, including former BBC presenter Lisa Shaw, have died. Lisa, a healthy woman in her 40s, here pictured with her husband Gareth, she statistically did not need the jab, but based upon the idea that somehow she was helping others, she took one for the team. She's gone now. Her husband, a widower, her young son without his mummy. The conspiracy theorists, the Tin Hat Brigade, the so-called anti-vaxxers, who were no such thing but simply wanted personal choice, were right all along. For the record, I'm triple jabbed. But did I need it? You tell me. We will never forget the politicians, the corporations, and the high-profile celebrities and TV doctors who needlessly coerced us into having the vaccine. They got blood on their hands. Never forgive, never forget, and never again. There's one thing.
And as I said, March. It's almost impossible for me to have been able to say this at this moment before anybody was even aware of the vaccine, let alone forcible vaccines. But it's not completely impossible. And the reason is, in order to know where you're going, you must know where you've already been. And you must do the work to find that out yourself. You can't get it from a second party, a third party, or through the telephone game.
Point this out. Saturday, March 28th, 2020 at 9:16 p.m. Once the herd accepts mandatory forcible vaccination, it's game over. They will accept anything. Forcible blood and organ donation for the greater good. We can genetically modify children, sterilize them for the greater good. Control sheep minds, and you control the herd. Vaccine makers stand to make billions, and many of you in this room today are investors. It's a big win-win. Well then, out of the herd, and the herd pays us for providing extermination services. Now what's for lunch? Henry Kissinger, in a speech to the World Health Organization Council on Eugenics, February 25th, 2009, posted that Saturday, March 28th, 2020, 9:16 p.m. And where are we today, people? Where are we today?
We cannot hide away from human population growth because, it underlies so many of the other problems. All these things we talk about wouldn't be a problem if there was the size of population that there was 500 years ago. We cannot hide away from human population growth because, it underlies so many of the other problems. All these things we talk about wouldn't be a problem if there was the size of population.
February 22nd, 2014. 2014. It was uploaded just 2 years ago, but it was recorded in 2014. Not 16, 14.
Spirit of God says, my people have cried. My people have cried out for an answer. And this is what I have to say, says the Spirit of life. A veil has been placed upon this nation, and I did it.
And I did it. He did it.
I did it.
But he's trying to mimic that he's a prophet, and he's saying God is telling him this. This is how warped your people's brain are.
So that for a season my people would wonder and faith would increase.
So that a season, the people, his people, would wonder and faith would increase. Well, why are they trying to bring faith back?
For in darkness faith grows.
Well, for in darkness faith grows. This is all manipulation, folks. 2014.
In despair, faith grows.
In despair, faith grows. So we could keep you latched on to the tit.
I did it. But now, my fury.
My fury. But now, my fury. Who's the Führer?
Has ended. Hear me. For I have found a man after my own heart.
So the Führer has found a man after his own heart, with blonde hair and blue eyes.
I have found a man after my own heart, and he is amongst you. He is one of the brothers but singled out for presidency of the United States of America.
See, he isn't amongst you, he's amongst elites. And that's what you people seem to forget. You don't seem to understand that they don't give a fuck about you.
But yeah, that transcription of God upon the heart of his prophet. How the gold has become dim. The stones of the sanctuary are scattered at the head of every street. The precious sons of Zion.
The precious sons of Zion.
Valuable as fine gold are now regarded as clay pots. Those who ate delicacies are desolate in the streets, and those who were brought up in royal scarlet now embrace ash heaps. Is this what I wanted? My people were brighter than snow, whiter than milk.
My people were brighter than snow, whiter than milk.
They were like sapphire in their appearance, and now they are stricken for lack of fruits in
They are stricken for lack of fruits.
the field.
In the field.
The hands of once compassionate women have cooked their own children, and their children have become food for them. Your children have become food for who are once compassionate women. But my fury is fulfilled, says the Lord, and I have now kindled a fire in Zion.
Have now kindled a fire in Zion.
I have kindled a fire in Zion, in America, in nations throughout the earth, and my fist is about to smack down on Russia. For out of the rebellion, turn me up just a little, out of the rebellion of the Ukraine, which was seen by my prophet, shall come out of those ashes beauty, shall come out of that sadness joy, shall come out of those garments praise, says the Lord. I have searched for a man and a woman who would stand in the Oval Office and pray and call for the restoration of the fortunes of Zion.
For a restoration of the fortunes of Zion, you fucking morons.
Again, I remind that these conspirators were never concerned with immediate success. They always operated on a long-range view. Pike did most of his work in his home in Little Rock, Arkansas. But a few years later, when the Illuminati's lodges of the Grand Orient became suspect and repudiated because of Mazzini's revolutionary activities in Europe, Pike organized what he called the New and Reformed Palladian Rite. He set up 3 Supreme Councils, one in Charleston, South Carolina, one in Rome, Italy, and the third in Berlin, Germany. He had Mazzini establish 23 subordinate councils in strategic locations throughout the world. These have been the secret headquarters of the world revolutionary movement ever since. Long before Marconi invented radio, the scientists in the Illuminati had found the means for Pike and the heads of his councils to communicate secretly. It was the discovery of that secret that enabled intelligence officers to understand how apparently unrelated incidents, one such as the assassination of an Austrian prince at Sarajevo, took place simultaneously throughout the world, which developed into a war or a revolution. Pike's plan was as simple as it has proved effective. It called for communism, political Zionism, and other international movements be organized and used to foment 3 global world wars and at least 2 major revolutions. The First World War was to be fought so as to enable the Illuminati to destroy Tsarism in Russia, as vowed by Rothschild after the Tsar had torpedoed his scheme at the Congress in Vienna, and to transform Russia into a stronghold of atheistic communism. The differences stirred up by agents of the Illuminati between the British and German empires were to be used to foment this war. After the war would be ended, communism was to be built up and used to destroy other governments and weaken religions. World War III is to be fomented by using the so-called controversies. The agents of the Illuminati, operating under whatever new name, are now stirring up between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Muslim world. That war is to be directed in such a manner that all of Islam and political Zionism, Israel, will destroy each other, while at the same time, the remaining nations, once more divided on this issue, will be forced to fight themselves into a state of complete exhaustion, physically, mentally, spiritually, and economically. Now, can any thinking person doubt that the intrigue now going on in the near, middle, and far east is designed to accomplish that satanic objective? Pike himself foretold all this in a statement he made to Mazzini on August 15, 1871. Pike stated that after World War III is ended, those who will inspire to undisputed world domination will provoke the greatest social cataclysm the world has ever known. Quoting his own words, taken from the letter he wrote to Mazzini, and which letter is now catalogued in the British Museum in London, England, he said, "We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a great social cataclysm which in all its horror will show clearly to all nations the effect of absolute atheism, the origin of savagery and of most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere, the people forced to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitudes disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will be from that moment on without direction and leadership, and anxious for an ideal but without knowledge where to send its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out into public view, a manifestation which will result from a general reactionary movement, which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time." When Mazzini died in 1872, Pike made another Italian revolutionary leader named Adrian Lemmy his successor. Lemmy, in turn, was succeeded by Lenin and Trotsky, then by Stalin. The revolutionary activities of all those men were financed by British, French, German, and American international bankers, all of them dominated by the House of Rothschild. We are supposed to believe that the international bankers of today, like the money changers of Christ's day, are only the tools or agents of the great conspiracy, but actually, they are the masterminds behind all of it. While the general public has been brainwashed by all the mass communications media into believing that communism is a movement of the so-called workers, the actual fact is that both British and American intelligence officers have authentic documentary evidence that international liberals, operating through their international banking houses, those who today comprise the conspiracy, the CFR in the United States, direct our governments, whom they hold in usury through such methods as the Federal Reserve System in America, to fight wars such as Vietnam, created by the United Nations, so as to further Pike's Illuminati plans to bring the world to that stage of the conspiracy when atheistic communism and the whole of Christianity can be forced into an all-out Third World War within each remaining nation, as well as on an international scale. Now let me show you how our federal government and the American people have been sucked into the one-world takeover plot of the Illuminati Great Conspiracy. And always bear in mind that the United Nations was created to become the housing for that one-world so-called liberal conspiracy. The real foundations of the plot for the takeover of the United States were laid during the period of our Civil War. Not that Weishaupt and the earlier masterminds had ever overlooked the New World. Weishaupt had his agents planted over here as far back as the Revolutionary War. But George Washington was more than a match for them. It was during the Civil War that the conspirators launched their first concrete efforts.
We know that Judah Benjamin, chief advisor of Jefferson Davis, was a Rothschild agent. We also know that there were Rothschild agents planted in Abraham Lincoln's cabinet who tried to sell him into a financial dealing with the House of Rothschild. But old Abe saw through the scheme and bluntly rejected it, thereby incurring the undying enmity of the Rothschilds. Investigation of the assassination of Lincoln revealed that the assassin, Booth, was a member of a secret conspiratorial group. Because there were a number of highly important government officials involved, the name of the group was never revealed, and it became a mystery, exactly as the assassination of Jack Kennedy still is a mystery.
And something known to just a handful of us for years. Stu is one of them. I never, ever thought I would talk about this on the air, but I feel compelled to tell you that seasons have changed again, and it is becoming more and more apparent, and you need to know what you're dealing with. We keep thinking that this is a political thing. It is not a political thing. I never thought I would share this, and take from it what you will. I mean, you can dismiss it. I never have. If you are a longtime listener of this program, you know that one of the reasons I left New York, besides the whole thing was going to burn itself down, was I had a medical condition. Part of it was brought on by no REM sleep for about 10 years. I actually found this to be very advantageous because I could get so much done because I just couldn't sleep. For 10 years, I never had a dream. That's not good for your body. And so I was really kind of broken down when I moved here. I feel much, much better and having dreams again, et cetera, et cetera. However, during this period, I had what could be described as a dream. I do not believe it was, but you might just say, well, that's ridiculous, whatever. In this dream, I come to in this dream, and I am in a hallway of the White House. And I'm walking into a big room where there's a bunch of cubicles, and people look up like, who's walking in? And there are people behind me, but I don't know who they are yet. I just know I'm being pushed forward by them. The people are at the cubicles, and they look over the cubicle first at me, and then their eyes dart to the people behind me, and then dart right back down. And I realize everybody in the White House is terrified of who's ever behind me. I kind of glance back, and I see these people that are in uniforms that I've never seen before. I have seen them since, but that will be for some other time. But I'd never seen these before. And we're being pushed through this place, and then we go into a room like the Situation Room, okay? A big conference room, presidential, and it's me and about 3 other people. And we're sitting down at that conference room table, and we were told just to wait there. So we do, and we start talking about, I don't think this is going to be good. That's when 2 other people walk in, and they were clearly identified in the dream. However, I'm not sure anymore that image was anything other than helping me relate to what I'm about to tell you. So the one guy, when they open the door, these guys in the uniforms are in the hallway, and the one guy says, him, and him, take him out. And they get up and look at me, and I'm the only one sitting at the table still, and they go out, the guards close the doors, and I'm now alone with these 2 people that are clearly in charge of something. They're not political. They're not in a political position. It didn't feel like, it wasn't the president or anything like that. And they are standing there, and then I hear 3 gunshots. And they said, yeah, that happened pretty quickly for them. However, we're going to get to know. And I said, okay. And they said, because you really have no idea who you're dealing with. And that's when one of them reached under like a Mission Impossible mask and ripped off his face. And he was Satan. He was a demon. Okay. Horrifying. I wake up. This was so vivid that I didn't tell anyone for months, and not even my wife. And it bothered me deeply, and I didn't know exactly what to do with that information. And about a year and a half went by, and it still was with me almost every day. Something you just don't forget. And I get a call from a guy who is, you would know his name, big spiritual leader. And he calls me, he says, can you come to my house? I need to talk to you. And I said, okay, sure, when? And he said, as soon as possible. I said, this weekend? Okay. He said, yeah. So I fly out. My wife and I stay overnight. We're going to see him the next morning. And that night, I have the exact same dream. And I wake up and I'm just in a panic. And we get in the car. I don't tell my wife. We get in the car and she said, this is going to be nice. And I said, yeah, except I'm having a hard time breathing right now. And she said, why? And I said, because I had that dream again last night. Remember, 10 years, no dreams, 2 dreams, the same one, and then the same one about a year and a half later. And she said, you should talk to him about that. And I said, no. If the Lord wants me to delve into it, he'll bring it up. No, I don't want to talk about it. And so we go into the guy's house. We sit down. He's sitting on a couch, and he sits down. He sits right on the edge of the couch, and he leans into me, and he says, sometimes the Lord talks to people. And I said, And he said, and sometimes people like you, he'll speak in many different ways, including dreams or visions. And I said, right. And he said, and this is when he leaned in, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I said, And he said, do not dismiss that dream. Do not ever dismiss that. And I said, okay. He sat back and he said, that's it. That's all I wanted to say. That was it. I have made choices on this show based on that. You might find that ridiculous. Maybe you don't. I will never dismiss that. I'm sharing it with you today, 10 years later, because you must not dismiss what you're dealing with. We are not in a battle of politics. We're not. Politics and our whole culture has become evil. I started this hour talking about what this pedophilia stuff that is going around and how nobody will even say anything that the designer of this uses the hashtag Moloch. That is the god of child sacrifice. This is what we're dealing with. Now, I never thought that people, when I wrote the book, Eye of Moloch, I never thought the average person who was involved in all of this stuff even believed in any of that. But they are being put into situations where some leaders, and I'm not talking politically in this particular case, I'm talking about that designer, I do believe they know what they're doing. And we are worshiping Moloch. We are worshiping Baal, and they are demanding our children as a sacrifice. You have to get to a point to where you are going to choose a side. There will be no one left on the benches. And if you think you can sit it out, you will end up on the wrong side. I urge you to know who you serve. This is a different time in human experience. This is not normal. None of this is normal. And it has been coming slowly in dribs and drabs, but for those who are really paying attention, it's methodical. And it has taken an extremely disturbing turn. We're no longer talking about issues of, tax policies and how big the government should be. We're not talking about those things anymore. We are talking about the erasing of the fundamental right for you to choose between good and evil. You're being coerced right now to accept one side. That is taking away your freedom of choice. That is God-given. Satan's plan was the other one. I'll go down, I'll return them all. Just give me the glory. I'll make the decisions for them. You have to start reading the news with spiritual eyes. I also urge you to start getting yourself back into the fold, whatever fold it is, of God. Get back to a place to where your eyes and ears are attuned to the Spirit, because you will not make it through this storm without it. As I used to say, there will come a time where you have to be so in tune. If the Spirit says, stop, turn around, go the other direction, you don't question it, you do it. And unless you start listening to it now and developing that muscle, you will not stop in time. Please. Joe Biden and FDR. This is the wheelchair FDR had when he died. I bought this not because I'm a big fan of FDR, because FDR, he didn't believe in the individual. And it's ironic, because I think the greatest thing about FDR was he forced himself to walk even though he had no power from his legs at all. But most people wouldn't know that. His wheelchair was hidden from the public all the time. And yet it was the guy on the other side of the water that said people who are handicapped, they're not real people. They don't have a quality of life. And so Hitler was killing them. Hitler was defeated in part by a guy in a wheelchair. That's one of the greatest stories I've ever heard. Somebody who thought he had no chance made his own way. That's where my love affair with FDR ends, because FDR, despite the fact that he did the impossible, he didn't think you could do the impossible. He didn't believe in the individual, thus the large state that he gave us. What FDR gave us was really the groundwork that has allowed so many in the previous administrations to create what we're living today. And if you think FDR was bad, wait until you see what is coming. Because Joe Biden is not the next FDR. Joe Biden is in a category all by himself.
Proved themselves internationalists, and those whose conduct proved they had defected from God were initiated into the Illuminati. Thenceforth, the conspirators donned the cloak of philanthropy and humanitarianism to conceal their revolutionary and subversive activities, and that all that secrecy emphasizes the power of the masterminds of the Illuminati to prevent such terrible events of history from being taught in our schools. In 1834, the Italian revolutionary leader Giuseppe Mazzini was selected by the Illuminati to direct their revolutionary program throughout the world. He served in that capacity until he died in 1872. But some years before he died, Mazzini had enticed an American general named Albert Pike into the Illuminati. Pike was fascinated by the idea of a one-world government, and ultimately he became the head of this Luciferian conspiracy. Between 1859 and 1871, Pike, worked out a military blueprint for 3 world wars and various revolutions throughout the world, which he considered would forward the conspiracy to its final stage in the 20th century.
I want to play another piece of audio here for you. This is Rachel Levine to doctors. I want you to listen to this.
For almost 40 years now, I have considered it an honor to be a doctor. I believe in our role as healers. I believe in our role as truth tellers. And the truth that we need to confront now is that medicine and science are being politically perverted around this country that destroys human lives. And we have reached a tipping point for the role in medicine and civic life, for the health and well-being of LGBTQI plus youth and other Americans. Those who attack our community are driven by an agenda of politics. It has nothing to do with medicine. It has nothing to do with science. It has nothing to do with warmth, empathy, compassion, and understanding. They are rejecting the value of supportive medicine, rejecting well-established science, and simply rejecting basic human compassion. We, as doctors and as people who love our communities and love our nation, have to confront the fact that the language of care and compassion that they're using is being taken for granted to literally tear our communities apart. So we have to stand up. We have to take a stand on behalf of those who are being hurt. That's what we do in medicine, even when it's difficult.
This is her plea to doctors to become activists for trans youth. Everything she said there is a distortion of the truth or an out-and-out lie. We are facing just incredible darkness, And we were talking about Planned Parenthood a few minutes ago and how they are pushing porn on our kids, how they are pushing transgender, non-binary. You know, you can be any gender you want. There has been something known.
Anyway.
So, what else is so deadly important for you to understand?
The Joe Rogan experience.
Yeah.
I mean, I wrote a book about Operation Paperclip, and my God, talk about a rabbit hole.
That's a rabbit hole.
It's a rabbit hole.
Let's explain to people that don't know what we're talking about. Operation Paperclip was when, after World War II, the United States gathered up a ton of scientists from Nazi Germany, brought them over to America, and even Werner von Braun. They had Werner von Braun run NASA. He was a Nazi, like 100% Nazi.
Good friends with Hitler type Nazi.
Yes, he ran a Berlin rocket factory where they hung the 5 slowest Jews. They would hang them out front so everybody would know, like, this is what happens when you work slow. We'll hang you. I mean, the Simon Wiesenthal Center said that if Wernher von Braun was alive today, they would prosecute him for crimes against humanity.
Yes, they would.
And that was the head of NASA. That was the head of NASA. That was the guy who got us to the moon. That was the big cheese guy. Yeah. So we were willing to put a lot of really dark things aside in order to gather up the best scientists of the Soviet Union. Couldn't get them all. And they got a few of them as well. But we got how many? More than 1,000, right?
Allegedly 1,400, but I would not be surprised if, the story changes and there were more, right?
Yeah.
But that goes back to our discussion earlier about being in pole position. I mean, that's why we grabbed those Nazis. We were like, if we don't get them, the Russians will.
I get it. And, and I'm sure the Nazis could say, I didn't want to do it. They made me. I'm a nice person. I love Jews.
Well, that was part of the mythology. It was like, we got the good Germans. Well, no, we didn't. We got the top Germans, and who do you think the top Germans were?
Yeah.
They were coveted by Hitler, Himmler, Göring,
Yeah.
I mean, these guys were... right. I mean, there were guys that we grabbed out of the docks at Nuremberg, literally, to come be part of our program,
Well, if you're smart, you're an asset, right? I mean, that's what Genghis Khan used to do. He'd take warlords from the other side and capture them and go, listen, just come over here, bro. Come on, work for me. I'm the man.
I mean, ideology aside, I'm super smart and I want that to be known. That's a competitor, right? I mean, you cannot be the best rocket designer in the world and not want those talents, demonstrated. That's Wernher von Braun's story. That's the story of all of them. And that was so shocking writing that book because it's like, wow, huge amounts of talent, but how far will the competitor go to see their baby come to fruition? What are they willing to put aside?
Yeah. Did you pay any attention to the other places where Nazis went when they escaped Germany? Like Argentina in particular? Have you ever seen any of that stuff? They have entire German towns down in Argentina.
God, right?
They do Oktoberfest down there. They wear lederhosen. They drink out of stein.
What's he talking about? What is he talking about?
Chile. He's unique.
What is Finding Hitler all about? This is a show that you're on. It's on A&E? Is that what's on?
Yeah, A&E is a parent network. It airs on History Channel, and we just had our 3rd season that just finished airing.
What's the thought process behind this? Is it legit? Because a lot of people are like, Finding Hitler, get the fuck out of here. They found Hitler, he died.
Yeah, I mean,
not really?
We don't know.
Right.
This isn't like Ancient Aliens. They declassified a bunch of documents. Both the Israelis, the British, and the Germans and Americans in the past 20 years have been consistently declassifying documents. And there were a bunch of specifically FBI documents that we were spending millions and millions of dollars actively searching for Hitler after the war, as was, like millions of dollars. Like Hoover was like, no, send more FBI agents to South America, to North Africa, go to the Canary Islands, go to Spain, trying to find out where this guy went. Tons of real FBI documents with real leads, with real informants, some first eye accounts saying that so anyways, that's the show, is us trying to find out, sift through reality and the fiction of the allure, the mystery of that asshole.
So what's the official story? The official story is that he killed himself, right? Yep. He killed himself in the bunker with David Braun.
Yep.
And is there any photographic evidence of his death or anything?
So what the Russians got the body, and they got his skull. And when they brought it back to Moscow, nobody has ever been able to independently verify who and what this body is. They let one genetic test occur, and the body with the bullet holes that they said was Hitler, and have said, and that's the narrative, that's the story, that's all the eyewitness accounts that are even in the vicinity of collaborating with each other, and corroborating each other's testimony. Like the closest version, because none of it seems to be very accurate, is that, okay, here's Hitler's skull, and when they did the genetic testing, it's that of a 35-year-old woman. So like, oh, well, this isn't Hitler, but they've said for the past 80 years that this is Hitler. So, okay, first, before we start throwing stones at Russia, let's go back to 1945, April, in Berlin. You have the Allies coming in, wrecking shop, dropping bombs, blowing everything up they can in every single which way. You have the Russians coming in from the opposite direction. They don't even have enough guns to arm all their soldiers. So if they have 200 guys, or 200,000 guys, they have 100,000 guns. If the guy in front of you dies, you just pick up his gun. That's what's happening in April of 1945 in Berlin. So the noose is tightening. There is it is chaos, anarchy, pandemonium. This is hell on earth, is Berlin, 1945. So I don't know if you could get a real story, the way that we do it now, where we have these forensic experts that come in and document everything, and we look at all the different testimonies and say this is exactly how. It's not CSI. This is 1945 Berlin. It's crazy. So
there's no absolute proof.
No.
And a lot of Nazis did escape and go to South America.
The majority of anyone with power. The Nuremberg trials were not a witch hunt, but it was to close a chapter so we could start moving forward with communism. That's what it was. The threat of fascism, the threat of Hitler, the threat of killing all the Jews, the threat of world domination by the Nazis, that threat's gone. What's the next threat? Communism. Right. So that had to be a closed chapter of our history, so we could focus our resources and our efforts to what inevitably was going to. I mean, the wall goes up. We have East and West Berlin. We're already looking at Korea. I mean, this happens almost overnight.
Right, very quickly.
When Patton's like, no, homies, we need to go all the way to Moscow. This is not the end of our war, and we didn't listen to him. We then have been, fighting communism for the past 75 years.
So did you hear what he just said? Now, what did Joe just ask? There's no details of this? Okay. Who is Benny? What is Ben's story?
60 Minutes Rewind. It's not often you get the chance to meet a man who holds a place in history like Ben Ferenz. He's 97 years old, barely 5 feet tall, and he served as prosecutor of what's been called the biggest murder trial ever. The courtroom was Nuremberg. The crime, genocide. The defendants, a group of German SS officers, accused of committing the largest number of Nazi killings outside the concentration camps. More than 1 million men, women, and children shot down in their own towns and villages in cold blood.
Okay.
you all. My name is Benjamin Ferenc, and I'm speaking to you from Delray Beach, Florida. I'm 100 years old, and the sole surviving prosecutor of the Nuremberg trials, and I'm very happy to be here in order to reach out to the young generation about what it means to you and what you can do about helping to create a more humane and peaceful world. I was raised in poverty. My family were immigrants. They escaped from Hungary and Romania, which was then known as Transylvania, a country which no longer exists. And I learned early on that it's not what you call the country, it's how they treat their people that counts. And we came to the United States, no money, no language, no skills. My father was pleased to get a job as a janitor in Hell's Kitchen in New York, one of the high-density crime areas in the country. My earliest memories begin in the cellar, an area where the Irish were fighting Italians, the Italians were fighting the Jews, and so on. And there was a lot of crime going on. Anyway, this 8th grade teacher called my mother came in. My father hadn't seen for a couple of years. And she was there with the principal. I thought they were going to complain about some mischief I'd been up to, which I was up to much of the time. She said, "This is a gifted boy. He should go to college." Well, we had no idea what she meant. Nobody gave me any gifts. And so when she said, "The gifted boy," I mean, what does that mean? I go to college. We didn't know anybody who went to college. It's just when you finish high school, if you're lucky, you went to work. So my mother said, "Whatever's good for him, we'll do." And so I think that marked a turning point in my life. So if I went to City College, and my grades were not extraordinary, and I got a degree in social sciences and all those things. I was an A student. But in biology, I didn't want to dissect a frog. I didn't want to do the things they wanted me to do. I inquired which was the best law school in the world, and they told me Harvard. And since I was very short, still am shrinking, I thought I'll apply there. So I applied to Harvard, and they accepted me.
Look at the first comment. This man is more lucid, intelligent, and coherent at 100 years old than our select president. There's a reason for that.
The first exam was in criminal law. I did so well that they gave me a scholarship. When I was still in law school, the war broke out. Japan attacked the United States at Pearl Harbor. Everybody I know went down to Harvard Square to enlist, including me. So I was busy trying to get into the branch of service that I wanted. I tried the Air Corps, and I tried paratroopers, and I tried Marines, and I tried everywhere. Nobody wanted me for one reason or another. Most of them I was too small. The Marines said, "You don't look like a Marine. We can't take you." And so there I am, going into the Army as my private, the lowest rank you can possibly get. And I was assigned to the 115th AAA Gun Battalion. The AAA means anti-aircraft artillery. I, of course, had not the slightest idea about what artillery meant or what anti-aircraft artillery meant. At least I could read or write, being trained for the invasion of France. And we went to the South Carolina, and there I spent days marching up and down again. Left, right, left, right, left, right. I said, "Sergeant," a beast of a man, what was that? I said, "The country's at war. Is there something useful I can do besides left, right? I know the difference between my right and left foot." Landed on the beaches of Normandy after we were trained. By the time I got there was still American bodies floating in a U.S. uniform face down in the water. The tanks, many of them had been hit by the Germans, had fortified all the possible landing spots. And tanks were smoldering, dead bodies, dead American soldiers floating. We had gone through the Maginot Line and the Siegfried Line, and across the Rhine on a pontoon bridge, driving a jeep, all of which was very hazardous. And the final battle of the Bulge in the Ardennes forest. I got a tap on my shoulder one day. "Say you report to General Pat's headquarters. We got some orders for you to report."
Did you hear what he just said? This old man, one human lifetime. He's still alive. This video was uploaded 2 years ago. He's 100 years old. Did you hear what he just said? He reported to General Patton. The previous video I just showed you about Joe asking if we have any documentation is why I'm showing you this.
So I went to General Patton's headquarters, and he said, "We have a message here from Washington. We are required to set up a war crimes branch. Your name has been forwarded from Washington. What's a war crime?" And so I think I was the first man in the American Army to deal with war crimes. We finally reached a point where my colonel comes and said, "We've got a report here that we're running into people on the road. They look like they're all starving, and they're coming out of some kind of a work camp." It was, they were named after the town. I get into my jeep, and off I go to the location. People are still, some of them still on the road, most of them went back into the camp. The ground is covered with dead people, and they're wearing the uniform of the prisoners, and crematoria are going, their bodies in them. Outside, their bodies look like skeletons, only skin and bones, piled up like cordwood, one on top of the other, waiting to be burned. The people on the ground, you couldn't tell if they were dead or alive. Their eyes would be pleading for help. They couldn't stand. So that was my first introduction. Nobody comes to tell me they don't think it happened, because I saw it. So I painted on my jeep, him or a line, always alone in German, to get out of my way. And I would head for the camp, and there I would come in. The first thing I did, I find out who was the tank commander who was in charge, American commander by that time. And I go to him, I say, "I'm here on the orders from General Patton, carrying out a policy of the United States for war crimes, President of the United States. I need 10 men immediately surround the Schreibstube where the office, where the records are kept. Nobody goes in or out without my permission." They would say, "Yes, sir." Yeah, I never had any insignia. I acted like I was a general.
I never had any insignia on me. I acted like I was a general. I'm 5'0" a tiny bit of a man. And I spoke to these people in these camps and ordered them, and they listened.
And that's what it took. Move. No, I say move. Oh, they say yes, sir. The Germans were terrific at keeping records. And
the Germans were terrific at keeping records.
Records. The name of the prisoner, what he died from, life was trying to escape. Mostly it was baloney. Trying to escape, or typhoid or some other disease. They were being murdered, systematically murdered, but
they were being murdered, systematically murdered.
Found the name, and I also had the name of who was the officer in charge. This was the type of experiences in the field. I just don't try to forget. I cannot forget. And it leads to the conclusion that war itself is horrible. It's the most outrageous thing. If the two heads of states are unable to agree, they take young people, they send them out to kill other young people they don't even know, in a country they never heard of, maybe. And when they get tired of killing each other, they pause, each side declares victory, they rest a little bit, then they start again. That's the current system. I'm 100 years old now. It's worrying about guys like you who are 18. Germany finally was defeated. They had surrendered unconditionally, which was a requirement. The Allied powers, the British, the French, the Americans, and the Russians got together, and they had conferences on what to do about the Germans. And the Americans said, look, we need trials. You accuse them of crime, give them a day in court. Let them come in, present the evidence. You present the counter evidence. We have judges there who will judge it, as we in America do. It says on the Supreme Court building, justice under law. Law applies equally to everyone. Give them a fair trial. Goering, who was the defendant that we captured, Hitler, had disappeared. And we didn't know originally where he went. Eventually, before the war ended, I was looking for Hitler as well. They gave me an honorable discharge the day after Christmas. Because we said,
did you hear what he just said? Hitler had disappeared before the war ended. He was looking for him as well.
Over Christmas, he was saying, I wrote to my fiance, I'll be home for Christmas. But when Christmas came, I get a telegram from the Pentagon saying, dear sir, they had never called me, sir, in 3 years in the army. And so I go to Washington, he called me, dear sir, and I was interviewed there by a Colonel Marcus. I give the name because his name was well known. He was a New York boy who said, Benny, you have to go back. I said, go back to Germany? I said, you don't get me to go back to Germany. You have to declare war on Germany again. I'm losing. I said, I'm not going back in the army. Oh, he said, we need you. We have more trials coming on. Now you tell me you need me. The war's over. Yes, we do. She will make you a full colonel. I called up my girlfriend and I said, how would you like to go to Europe for a brief honeymoon? She said, I love it. I said, you got it. I went back, I still picked the job. Most of the records are in Berlin. I set up in Berlin. I got a staff of about 50 people, all former German refugees. One of my researchers in Berlin comes and he hands me file papers. And I look at it and it's in German, the Ereignismeldungen aus der UdSSR, which in English means the situation reports from the Eastern Front. And these were daily reports, top secret, written from the Eastern Front. The German army had been inventing into Ukraine, Russia, and so on. And there were special squads called Einsatzgruppen. And their assignment was to kill without pity or remorse. They never used the word kill, eliminate. Without pity or remorse, every single Jewish man, woman, or child they could lay their hands on. I took a little adding machine, and I began to add up how many people they killed where. When I got to 1 million, I said, that's enough. I took a sampling. I got on the next plane, going from Berlin to Nuremberg. I went to Nuremberg. There was Taylor, was then the general. He was promoted to colonel. And I said, General, we're going to put on a new trial. So the idea I became the chief prosecutor of the largest murder trial in human history.
The charges we have brought accuse the defendants of having committed crimes against humanity. The same acts we have declared under count 1 as crimes against humanity are alleged under count 2 as war crimes. It is therefore wholly fitting for this court to hear these charges of international crimes and to adjudge them in the name of civilization.
I accused 22 defendants selected by me on the basis of their education. Many of them had PhD, one had a double doctorate, and their rank, generals and colonels of the SS, and accused them of the calculating murder of over 1 million innocent men, women, and children. That was my first case. I had never been in a courtroom in my life. I arrested my case in 2 days. I convicted all of them. We asked the court to affirm by international law's right of all people to live in peace and human dignity, regardless of their race or creed. That was my opening paragraph in the Einsatzgruppen New Hell. And I got that from the judges. We have to, more important is to prevent it from happening again. And I've been working on that for the rest of my life. And it's very hard to do. 3 words, law, not war. If you can do that, you save every day billions of dollars, which you can use to deal with the legitimate complaints of all people who need medical care, students who have to pay for their tuition, all the legitimate complaints which could be solved if we didn't spend the money on weapons to kill them instead of helping them. And that is the current system. Now, how are you going to do it? I will end by telling you how to do it. And the principle which have guided me. There are 3 principles. 1, never give up. 2, never give up. 3,
never give up.
I hear you. Never give up. Good luck. I wish you the best of luck.
People get discouraged. They should remember me.
Yo, what's up, dude? Just gonna wait a second and see if more people hop on. I have something cool to talk about, I think, or so it's a realization I had at the beginning of all this stuff. And now that I'm reading more into things here, and just sort of confirmed it for me. What a lot of people are thinking in the so-called conspiracy world is actually far more than just conspiracy. And so something I wanted to talk about that I've actually experienced myself is going through being initiated into a secret society. Now, to go into why I did it, I've just always been fearful of them. What's up, Chris? I've always been fearful of them. And I got to a point in my life where I said, I don't want to be scared of this anymore. I want to know more about it. And in order for me to not be in fear of it, I think it would be best if I actually just went through it and saw what it was. And then I could move on with my life and not live in fear of it. And I do that with a lot of things. When I was a kid, I was scared to death of roller coasters, and I got to a point where I just said, I just got to go on one of these things, and then I can move on with my life, and I don't need to be afraid of it anymore. And it comes with a certain level of wisdom in life as you get older, and I think we experience that in many things, not just something like this. But so anyway, something I can tell you is when you're initiated into Lodge, there's a lot of different things that happen prior to this, but I'm just going to, I can go into those later. I'll take questions. I don't care. I'll answer whatever you got. There's really no technical secret. The only thing that would be considered a secret in it is called the pass, which would be used to get into Lodge, right? So that would be the only thing that technically can't be shared or spoken about. The rest of it is just all allegory and poetry and prayers and all different kinds of things. And there's really you can find anything you want online, And it says right here something very interesting, and it can be related to this whole pandemic, like the god pandemic. But here, in the introduction to Freemasonry. Now I have the Entered Apprentice because I went through all 3 degrees of the Blue Lodge, so I became a Master Mason. And then I've got the Fellowcraft book as well, and then the Master Mason. It's really nothing special. So, but anyway, here in the Entered Apprentice book, it explains something about penalties, and what penalties are the punishment that you would have to endure for going against or like sharing any of the information. It says, Freemasonry has been aptly described as the gentle craft. Its teachings are of brotherly love, relief, truth, love of God, charity, immortality, mutual help, and sympathy. To the initiate, therefore, the penalty in his obligation comes often with a shock of surprise and sometimes consternation. Let it be said with emphasis, the penalties are wholly symbolic. Yes, I am definitely a Freemason confirmed. I have no problem telling people that because there's really nothing like crazy about it from what I learned, at least on the lower level lodges. Like I went through the first 3 degrees of the Blue Lodge. But what it's saying here is the penalties are wholly symbolic, just like what's going on with this pandemic. The penalties that they're threatening you with are all symbolic. People are being, if you can understand initiation, if you've been through it, or if you've studied it enough, now to go through it will take you light years ahead of somebody who's just studying it. And I'm not telling anybody, don't do it. There's no reason to. Don't do it. I did it for a specific reason, and I just realized the other day that maybe it's a part of what I need to be doing is speaking about it, so I can help people understand what we're going through right now. This is an initiation. The masses are being initiated, right? And I can prove it because I've been through it. This isn't me just like, well, I read this crazy book on the Freemasons, man. No, don't do it. And it said this. Well, guess what? I've been through it, so I can actually tell you what happens. So one of the very interesting things about it is that before you enter Lodge, you have to wear a mask.
And the reason he's telling you don't do it, because he knows it's a double-edged sword. He understands that once you put the glasses on, you can't take them off.
Now, the mask is not over your mouth, it's over your eyes, because they say that you're not ready to see the light yet. And it's symbolic because it's basically saying that you're wandering around in the dark until you receive the light of the Lodge. That's the symbolism behind it. But right now, people are being initiated because they're wearing the mask during the initiation. This one's over the mouth because they don't want people to talk. That's another part of the initiation here is you don't speak your own words. The only time you can speak during initiation is to repeat what they just said to you, just like now. The only accepted speech right now is the speech of repeating like a parrot what you hear on the news or what you read on an approved site. And anything other than that is heresy. So they're taking people through an initiation. We're way past the initiation right now. I'd say we're more in the Fellowcraft right now. The Entered Apprentice has far passed, and we kind of all know who's been initiated and who's not. But it's kind of funny to me, the similarities between it. And now I see that we've moved past the first degree. The first degree is done. The second degree is going to be when I feel like we're entering the second degree, but they do give you time between degrees to kind of take in what has happened. What's up, Joe? Exactly, you're a heretic. But like I said, they say it right here. I turned off the page, hold on. They say right here that the penalties are all symbolic. They're all symbolic. There is no actual penalty for going against the initiation. You can go against it. There is no penalty. There's no penalty. They tell you that. It's what we're going through right now is there's people who are refusing to be initiated and there's people who want to be initiated and they're excited about what's coming. They love it. I found over and over that when I say something to somebody that I'm viewing as a negative aspect of the future to come, they think it's really cool. So it's just like someone who would go through this and was really excited about it. You could, and believe me, I was scared to death and I was paranoid and I thought I was going to die, but I didn't. But But what I got out of it, I'm able to share, and I'm not going to stop myself from sharing it. I was fearful of that too, and this is my moment of saying fuck that. But anyway, here's something very interesting as well. Hold on. Here we go. The entered apprentice is the property of the lodge. He can receive his fellowcraft and master mason degrees nowhere else without its permission. So the lodge that you're initiated in is considered your mother lodge. But he does not yet pay dues to the lodge. He is not yet permitted to sign its bylaws. He can enter it only when it is open on the first degree. He cannot hold office, vote or ballot, receive Masonic burial, attend a Masonic funeral as a member of the lodge, and has no right to Masonic charity. So you can't attend a funeral. You have no right to Masonic charity. They're taking away your right to work and earn a living. To them, it's charity. They give you that as charity. Think about that.
This is uploaded a year ago where this conversation was happening.
They're telling you blatantly. And it's the same as here. The connections that I've been making recently, and maybe this will be a thing where I just talk about a little bit, go deeper into this, but if you really think about what I just said, the first degree, right? You can't hold office. Vote or ballot. Our vote was... I'm not getting into all the Trump, Biden, blah, blah, blah. I don't really get into that shit, but if you really look at how it worked out, you don't have the right to vote. And they're telling you that here, right? You're an initiate. You have no right to vote. You can't receive burial or attend a Masonic funeral as a member of the lodge. They didn't allow us to have funerals either, right? It can't be more blatant that people went through the first degree of initiation.
Nobody wants to listen.
Not necessary, and ultimately not really useful. How many revolutions in history, in short order, just ended up creating a new ruling class that was just as bad as the one before? Or worse? Pretty much all of them. And yes, that includes the American Revolution. What Congress and the state governments do here to the people on a daily basis is far worse than anything that King George III ever even dreamed of. And besides, who among us is really eager and willing to trade in the relatively easy existence we now have with the widespread, prolonged death and destruction of a revolution? No thanks. Thankfully, there's a much more effective way, and while it is physically pretty easy, psychologically it can be very difficult and uncomfortable for all those who've always believed somewhere in the back of their minds that sooner or later the system will provide justice, that the good guys will win, that those who follow the rules will be rewarded, and that if we wave a flag and pledge allegiance, tyrants will fail. But that is, and has always been, a lie. Oppression and tyranny always happen in the name of law, not in spite of it. Freedom is always illegal. Listen carefully and at least let this one concept sink in. Freedom is always illegal. Those who wield power always use it to enrich themselves and their buddies at the expense of the freedom and prosperity of everybody else. Always. People don't run for office and seek positions of power in order to leave you alone. They do it so they can rob, dominate, and control you. Deep down inside, you know this is true about all politicians, everywhere, including the ones you voted for. Whatever dishonest rhetoric they want to use about representing the people and being public servants, you know damn well that the people in power sought out power for themselves. With that in mind, asking them to allow you your liberty is insane. The problem isn't just them, it's also you. If you are still waiting for permission from politicians to be free, you've already lost. You won't get it, ever. But more importantly, you don't need it. People spend so much time focusing on the dictates of so-called legislators and so much time begging for the ruling class to please be nice to them that they miss the fact that the politicians and their stupid and or evil commands don't matter if the people don't obey. The victims of authoritarian injustice always vastly outnumber those who oppress and abuse them. Always. Tyranny mainly happens not because of the small number of sociopaths who try to rule the world, but because of the masses of well-intentioned people who obey those sociopaths as if they have the right to rule everyone else. To put it another way, the main problem and the solution does not reside in the minds of the demented, power-happy control freaks. It resides in the minds of everybody else. If the people stop viewing criminals as some rightful authority and stop obeying their decrees, the politicians' power evaporates. And that is what has to happen to stop this. Not votes, not petitions, not protests, not political campaigns. Disobedience and resistance. If you will only live as a free human being when politicians tell you you're allowed to, then you are a slave forever. If you still think you need legislative permission to live your own life and make your own choices, then you're already doomed. As Stephen Biko put it, the most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. And if you still feel an obligation to obey whatever arbitrary crap the political crooks decide to call law, then you are the one enriching and empowering these psychos. You are the one cooperating with and enabling this injustice. If you still take pride in being a law-abiding taxpayer, which literally means that you are proud to blindly obey the oppressive dictates of sociopaths and proud to fund their heinous machine, then you are the problem. If you really want to be part of the solution, you need to back your brain out of the authoritarian indoctrination it's been dragged through your whole life and realize that in a time of widespread institutionalized injustice, law and authority are always on the side of evil. And those on the side of righteousness are always considered criminals by the psychopaths who demand their obedience. So if you want to see freedom and justice prevail, then learn to be a criminal. Learn how to disobey destructive and immoral commands, even when those commands are called law. Learn how to trust your own soul and your own conscience and put what you know is right above what the parasites say is legal. Stop waiting for and begging for a political solution. There is none and never will be. And when you demand freedom, actually demand it. That doesn't mean making a pathetic request to the very people who rob and abuse you. It doesn't mean protests and voting. It means disobeying, and it means resisting by any means necessary. Let me end here with a quote from Frederick Douglass. Quote, "If there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom and yet deprecate agitation are men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without the awful roar of its many waters. This struggle may be a moral one, or it may be a physical one, and it may be both moral and physical, but it must be a struggle. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. Find out just what any people will quietly submit to, and you have found out the exact measure of injustice and wrong which will be imposed upon them. And these will continue till they are resisted with either words or blows or with both. The limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance of those whom they oppress." End quote. If you actually believe in freedom and justice, stop asking nicely for it. Go make it happen.